Chapter 730. The legendary fist art had yet to appear, and he was already in such a sorry state. Looking at Tang Tian's unharmed body, and then looking at his charred body, he felt stifled. Blade Devil Transformation and Executing the Heavens. These two slashes were extremely powerful, and Tang Tian felt that he was unable to control them. The origin force in his body was abundant and boundless, and it was reasonable to say that such a situation should not occur. In terms of the toughness of his body, Tang Tian was almost at the peak. If he wanted to go further, he could only strengthen it through his life essence. Tang Tian was extremely confident in the strength of his body. Even the first ancestor of the Shui family could not be stronger than him in terms of body. Every wind blade that landed on the ground would explode with a loud bang, creating a deep pit that was dozens of feet deep. Continuous explosions sounded from below, and countless mud pillars flew into the sky. In the blink of an eye, the ground below was riddled with holes. That was, Tang Tian's strength was nothing in his eyes. The legendary fist technique did not appear, and Lu Tianwen was always on guard, as it was said that the fist technique was extremely strange. From the start, Lu Tianwen felt that Tang Tian's blade was just a pretense, and his true killing technique was definitely his fist techniques. The blood of such an expert must be even more delicious. The flesh and blood in his body were struggling like surging waves, rumbling endlessly. Tang Tian's gaze became even clearer, the blade in his hand became even more stable, even the berserk null flames around him became quiet and docile. His imposing manner was reserved, without any ruthless aura. Boom, boom, boom. He raised the long saber in his hand slowly. It was too satisfying. The heavy demonic execution had a total of 5 moves. Blade Devil Transformation, a heaven-defying slash, Devil Eye slash, a sacrificial slash, and demonic formless slash. Wasn't it rumored that Ghost Face Mask used his fists? Recalling the experience of the heavy sky demonic chop, Tang Tian's heart stirred. He gripped the hilt of his saber tightly, and the blood and qi in his body surged. His entire body's flesh and blood seemed to be buzzing from the intense battle. In Tang Tian's eyes, the earth-shattering majesty and the terrifying aura were as majestic as the heavens and earth. He finally understood the true essence of the heavy demonic execution. Crack. I'm going for the weak point. This time, I'll definitely win. Wasn't he supposed to be practicing fist techniques? How to use a saber. It was one thing for him to use a saber so well, but the law he cultivated was actually the life and death law. What a great saber technique! What a ruthless saber technique! Tang Tian's body trembled. Those ripples that passed by him were instantly shattered, and his body became lighter. However, more and more ripples surged over, and the air became viscous again. Now, he finally understood why only the first ancestor of the Shui family could truly unleash the power of the heavy demonic execution back then. It was a blade skill that was completely piled up with countless life essence. A light crackling sound came out. In the air not far from Lu Tianwen, an electric arc suddenly lit up. Lu Tianwen, whose entire body was charred black, stared at Tang Tian in a daze. He never thought that the power of the blade would be so strange, to actually drill into his spear aura before exploding. Caught off guard, he immediately suffered a great loss. Even though they were far away, the people on the stone wall felt a little unsteady. They couldn't help but feel shocked. Just you wait, I will come again. Such a powerful regenerative ability could only be achieved by those people who mainly trained in life and death laws. The dazzling wind and thunder arcs mixed with the terrifying blade aura shockwave shot out in all directions like formless wind blades enveloped with lightning. Suddenly, Tang Tian felt an intense undulation, causing him to wake up from his thoughts. Only then did he realize that Lu Tianwen was in a strange state. Tang Tian's eyes constricted. The surging power came from the blade, and in that moment, Tang Tian sensed that something was amiss. The light slash struck the spear aura, as though the spear aura was sent to Tang Tian's blade. Lu Tianwen, whose entire body was charred black, left angrily. To forge a blade, one must bear the pain. To refine the demon, one must be bewitched. Lu Tianwen laughed sinisterly and thrust it out with his spear. What made him feel even more sullen was that Tang Tian's wounds were healing. Disguise was forever a disguise, everyone trained in martial techniques, and could never be changed. How can my blade be so powerful? The ripples mixed with the explosive sounds of wind and thunder, suddenly converging at the spear tip, causing the whistling sounds to disappear. Tang Tian was affected. He suddenly roared towards the sky. His decisive and intense fighting intent was like a dancing flame, bringing along a wanton and berserk intent. The clothes on his body fluttered without any wind, the null flames around his body danced like snakes, the ripples in the air, upon getting close to Tang Tian, would shatter. For some reason Lu Tianwen's pupils constricted. He had seen countless of brilliant blade artists, and to unleash such an ethereal blade strike, only those blade artists with pure and ethereal blade intents were able to unleash it. Just at that moment, the origin force in Tang Tian's body that was clashing violently returned to normal, and Tang Tian's aura suddenly became extremely ethereal. His eyes exploded with light aura. He raised his blade and slashed down silently. The blood-red color in Lu Tianwen's eyes became even denser, the spear in his hand gently raised. The formless ripples were like a fish net, the densely packed lightning arcs were like a school of fish being caught in one net, the gloomy sound of the wind became even more terrifying. What a powerful aura! And he had found Tang Tian's weakness. He had long realized that the blade in Tang Tian's hand was an ordinary blade, and was unable to withstand such a strong force. And the spear in his hand was a top-grade treasure. The Lu family had spent a huge sum of money to create the Thunder Wind Spear. What was the devil self and the true self, struggling and entangling, hesitating and at a loss? It was human nature, but as long as one could endure it, as long as one persevered, one would eventually see the light, and be able to see one's own heart. But there was no fear in his heart, only excitement. Come, come. It was a saber strike without the slightest bit of smoke and fire. In the end, the thunder wind ball exploded. Tang Tian's body was able to withstand the astonishing power, but his blade was unable to. In the instant he slashed, he dodged and broke through space, disappearing. Tang Tian's true self-execution was not ordinary, it looked to be light and powerless, but when the terrifying power entered the spear aura, it immediately exploded, causing the spear aura to swell up like a balloon, transforming into a thunder wind ball. He could not be bothered to think about it. His eyes were bloodshot as he stared at Tang Tian. He only had one thought in his mind: kill them all, kill them all. Bang! How long has it been since Lu Tianwen was in such a sorry state? He did not remember. Tang Tian did not move. He endured the pain in his body, his eyes shining brightly. A transparent ripple swept past the electric arc, woo woo woo, the sound of the wind gradually came out, converging into a low whistling sound that caused people's scalps to go numb, one after another transparent ripple, with the spear tip in Lu Tianwen's hand as the center, it continued to spread out. Crackle crackle crackle, the concentrated and minute explosions sounded out, one after another, electric arcs blossomed in the air, and in the blink of the eye, Lu Tianwen's surroundings lit up with densely packed green electric arcs. Woo, a low and gloomy wind sound came out from the electric arcs. The matured law surface projected power, it was vast and powerful, they were like light beams that converged onto Lu Tianwen's body. Lu Tianwen's aura rose frantically, it continued to rise, as though it was as majestic as the heavens and earth. The spear tip released a ripple that spread out like a ripple, its interference range continued to expand, causing the space around it to become unstable. Bang! The pain and struggle, the hesitation and loss, they would never disappear, they were like a demonic barrier in life. Every time one experienced it, one's vision would become clearer, one's steps would become more stable, and one's state of mind would become more resolute. Lu Tianwen's spear was extremely powerful, and even though he had retreated at the first moment, he was still injured. He looked at the right side of his body. It was badly mutilated, it was charred black, and his bones could be clearly seen. The tyrannical and vicious wind and thunder was still corroding his flesh. In the previous slash, Tang Tian suddenly realized that the origin force in his body was actually left with less than 30%. The origin force in his body was extremely abundant, but under the third slash, it was instantly bottomed out. Tang Tian's origin force surged, the green and silver wind and thunder suddenly flew out. The wounds that were enveloped by the null flames started to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. The origin force in his body was slowly activated, but this time, it was completely different from the previous two slashes. The power of the physique in his body surged and revolved, as though it was struggling and pacing back and forth in his body. The intense conflict caused Tang Tian's entire body to involuntarily tremble. Blood leaked out of the corner of Tang Tian's mouth. The right side of his body was charred black. The terrifying qi firmly locked onto Tang Tian, causing Tang Tian to actually have the misconception that he was unable to move. Tang Tian did not feel anything. He was still reminiscing about the two slashes, although it was his first time using it, and he was still somewhat inexperienced, but the two heavy slashes still caused his blood vessels to expand. It was an indescribable feeling of contentment. This was because of his powerful physique, adding his outstanding control over his body. It was the first time he used it, and was able to produce such an outstanding result. The path of the sky demon that was destined to contend against the heavens and earth, the pain, struggle, and confusion would only increase, and become even more intense. His body moved like a spear. A green and silver intersecting wind and thunder spear aura brought forth a whistling sound, as though the spear aura contained countless of fierce beasts. Like a shooting star, it tore through the sky and appeared in front of Tang Tian. Lu Tianwen felt extremely hurt. He had an indescribable sullen feeling. It was as though he had agreed to compete in strength. But in the end, the other party wanted to compete in techniques. Alright, if they were to compete in techniques then so be it, but in the end, the other party wanted to compete in handsomeness. The blade in his hand shattered, transforming into countless of pieces. Lu Tianwen's bloodshot eyes shone with an ominous light. The fighting intent in his body surged. He never thought that the ghost face mask would actually be so strong. The blade had not even been unleashed, but its qi was already out of the ordinary. Then there must be other profound mysteries. Tang Tian then realized that the heavy demonic execution was not as simple as he thought. Although he did not understand what a sky demon was, but from the blade technique, he could feel the determination of an ant that wanted to contend against the heavens and earth. Even the heavens and earth could not make him submit, and could not make him surrender. The transparent ripples silently crumbled into nothingness upon reaching a distance of 10 meters from his body. Asshole! What kind of mess is this? Lu Tianwen was ranked 39 in the Sin Domain's list of powerhouses, and was already a peak martial artist in the entire Sin Domain. Compared to Han Bingning, who had just gained enlightenment on his law surface was mature and perfect, and he was just a step away from gaining enlightenment on a law domain. Chapter 731. Tang Tian pointed to the golden steel gravel in the sack and said, "Try to use your law thread to break the golden steel gravel. Take note, the law thread will cut a small hole on the outside of the gravel. Do not touch the whirlpool inside, it is very dangerous." Ping Xiao Shan gasped for breath, and replied honestly, "Yes, master. That's right, it is because it is difficult that you can train your usage of law thread." Tang Tian became serious, revealing a look of reminiscence, and spoke with an experienced tone. "In the past, I trained in a type of claw technique, and for the sake of mastering it, I had to grind through an entire 30,000 pieces of steel before I was able to barely master it. Sweat doesn't lie." On the second day, Tang Tian opened his eyes. For the entire night, He had already swallowed over 100 grains of golden steel gravel's life origin essence. They were slowly nourishing his body, allowing Tang Tian's body to regain its vitality. He calmed himself down, his gaze became resolute, he activated his law thread, and a fine spatial law thread appeared on his finger. To be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with Lu Tianwen, they were all important figures that reached the clouds. Tang Tian's face was filled with gratification. Seeing Ping Xiao Shan perspiring profusely, Tang Tian smiled. Is it very difficult? When Ming Zhu heard about the golden steel gravel, he immediately flew over, and in a short while, he carried the entire sack of golden steel gravel over. That's right, that is the Thunder Wind Spear Lu Tianwen. Master fought with him for so long, I am afraid that he is already heavily injured, and is only holding on for everyone, to scare Lu Tianwen away, but his body is already at the end of its tether. I finally found a good laborer. The origin force in Tang Tian's body was quickly recovering. Oh my, I can't compete with quality, I can only compete with quantity, Tang Tian thought happily. Tang Tian, who had not had enough, smacked his lips and spat out the golden steel gravel. The exterior of the golden steel gravel was perfectly preserved, and only a small hole could be seen. Tang Tian's mind moved. Who knows, maybe the golden steel gravel will be of use. Ping Xiao Shan replied. After working for 10 hours, his mind was sluggish. He stood up and walked towards the room. Tang Tian watched as Lu Tianwen disappeared. He had no strength to chase after him. Although Lu Tianwen's entire body was charred black, but Tang Tian knew that the other party's exhaustion was not as great as his. The power projected by Lu Tianwen's law surface was extremely strong, and as such, his actual consumption was not as much as mine. On the contrary, he did not have a law surface, and consumed all of his origin force. Let's hurry up, Tang Tian said softly. Of course, martial artists who ignited their source fire also had their own advantages. No matter how strong the power projected by the law surface was, in the end it was not his own power, it was equivalent to him borrowing power, and naturally it would not be as easy to use. Origin energy, on the other hand, was formed from the power of one's flesh and blood, and was controlled by one's heart. Although he had to extract source power, the self-healing effect of the law of life was indeed very practical and powerful. After swallowing a wisp of life essence, Tang Tian could clearly feel that the wisp of life essence was slowly nourishing his withered body. But the process was extremely slow, but because his own origin force had been exhausted, the life essence did not transform into origin force. Tang Tian lay down leisurely, and unknowingly, there was a pile of golden steel gravel shells in front of him. Upon landing, Tang Tian's legs went soft, and he was about to fall. A Maori jumped in fright. He immediately supported him up and asked anxiously, "Crazy Tang, are you all right? Following such a boss, it will be hard for me to not have a future. Think about it, after absorbing such a terrifying amount of life essence, what would his body look like?" Tang Tian had always been confident that his body was stronger than others, but upon seeing the entire sack of golden steel gravel, the young man was terrified. I never thought that the master would be so hard-working, most probably only by doing so can he have such strength. Tang Tian remained expressionless. He silently imagined the other party to be an old man, and allowed a Maori to support him into the fort. Ping Xiao Shan followed quietly. He completely did not know what to do. On the other hand, Tai Xie, who was by the side, was extremely envious. He thought that it would be good if his boss could trouble him a little. It was necessary for him to show his existence. How can a young man with ambition only think about comparing sacks? Seems like we can only compare who is more handsome. I think he has already absorbed so many sacks. And Tang Tian believed that Nie Chio was a treacherous man. Even if everyone could only learn one technique, they would be able to unleash its might to its maximum. Who was Lu Tianwen? He was the powerful man ranked 39 on the list of powerhouses in Sin Domain. Such a powerful man actually lost to Tang Tian. If this matter were to spread to Purple Cuckoo City, it would definitely shake the entire city. Master, I'm done. Enough, enough. Tang Tian immediately nodded his head. He finally understood why the ancestor of the Shui family was able to master the heavy demonic execution. Thinking about what Ming Zhu had said, there were no records of the golden steel gravel being sold in the past few years, and most likely, it was all broken and absorbed by him. Watching Ping Xiaoshan leave, Tang Tian's heart was filled with admiration. We will do it again next time. He stretched his body, although he had not completely recovered, but his origin force had recovered by 10%. The most difficult period is over, and it will be easier to recover later on. Thinking about Lu Tianwen's last attack, Tang Tian was sure that the other party would not be able to recover so easily. Ping Xiaoshan's heart became even sadder. He felt that he had guessed correctly. The heavens are jealous of heroes. Master is such a hero, his fate is truly unfair. Even at such a time, Master did not forget his promise to me. He was moved and hurt at the same time, tears flowed out uncontrollably. After placing Tang Tian down, Amauri chased everyone out, leaving Ping Xiaoshan alone. Looking at the sack of golden steel gravel in front of him, Tang Tian was 100% sure that Ping Xiaoshan definitely used his life origin essence to create it. Ping Xiaoshan was at a loss. What do I need to do? It's nothing, I'm just exhausted. Tang Tian laughed bitterly. He did not even have the strength to move a finger. The reason why the injuries on his body had healed was because of life laws, but it was not what Lu Tianwen had guessed. It was from training, but from absorbing life origin essence. The life laws had allowed his injuries to heal, but it had also sucked out the remaining 30% of origin force in his body. Ping Xiaoshan's mind was in a mess, sorrow welled up in his heart. He spoke with a trembling voice. Master, you better recuperate. When you are healed, you can slowly teach Xiaoshan. After spending close to 10 minutes, he finally succeeded. But, thinking about the group of beast-like men rushing forward and unleashing Blade Devil transformation, at the same time, Tang Tian could not help but tremble. I reckon that the ancestor of the Shui family who created the heavy demonic execution will never think that there would be such a group of people with such powerful bodies. Ping Xiaoshan was extremely focused. He tirelessly cut the golden steel gravel, and his speed slowly increased. Tang Tian patted the numb Ping Xiaoshan. Xiaoshan, this special training will end here, go and rest well. Under Tang Tian's dumbstruck gaze, Ming Zhu threw the sack on the ground with a look of concern. Is it enough? We have not sold the gold and steel gravel for the past few years. They are all here. If it is not enough, I can find the people who bought it in the past, and see if I can buy some back. Ping Xiaoshan raised his head, his eyes revealing a look of joy. Master, are you going to teach me stealth techniques? Tang Tian reckoned that with Amauri's physical strength, he would be able to learn 2 techniques, while the rest could only learn 1. Ping Xiaoshan's usage of law threads was far more outstanding than Tang Tian, but he had never used law threads before, and had never done such meticulous work. The golden steel gravel itself was small, and the whirlpools inside were even smaller. To cut a small hole in the golden steel gravel without touching the whirlpools was extremely difficult. I need to give them big blades. When Tang Tian returned to the castle, he received the treatment of a hero. As expected, Master's training method is not ordinary, there must be some profound secret hidden within. Tang Tian received the golden steel gravel and nodded his head in satisfaction. He threw it into his mouth, and the life origin essence flowed out and was absorbed into his mouth. His current body was like a dried-up riverbed, and the life origin essence quickly permeated into his body. Just like Tai Xie, Tang Tian and Lu Tianwen's battle had shocked Ping Xiaoshan. He had thought that Ghost Face Mask was powerful, but he had never thought that Ghost Face Mask would be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with the top-grade martial artists in the legends. It was a height that he could never imagine. It was too terrifying. The law surface was like a replenishment base. It could be used to replenish one's energy endlessly, and that was why in Sin Domain, martial artists that trained in laws far outnumbered martial artists that ignited their primordial fire origin. He followed Tang Tian, and his greatest wish was to perfect his Ping family's stealth techniques, to transform it from a stealth technique into an inheritance that could be used for offense and defense. The battle between Master and Ben Sin made him see hope, and after the battle on the street, it made him see the power of spatial law threads. It was truly a killing weapon. When he heard that Tang Tian wanted to trouble him, he was completely stupefied. Tang Tian realized that as long as the law threads did not touch the vortex inside the golden steel gravel, there would be no problem. Between the vortex and the gravel, there was a small gap. Mingzhu, prepare some golden steel gravel. Tang Tian's eyes turned black. He never thought that he would actually overdraft himself to such an extent. He could only speak to Ping Xiaoshan. Xiaoshan, I will have to trouble you this time. Tai Xie looked at Tang Tian with reverence. With that, he took out another golden steel gravel and focused on cutting the gravel. Tang Tian was curious why Ping Xiaoshan's eyes were filled with tears. But I should teach Amauri and the rest the heavy demonic execution as soon as possible. When he removed the law threads, he realized that he was extremely tired. Ping Xiaoshan wiped away his tears. I need to do my best, and not disappoint Master. Ping Xiaoshan sincerely took out a golden steel gravel from his sack. He took a deep breath and carefully held onto the golden steel gravel with his right hand, while his other hand used the law threads to carefully cut the golden steel gravel. That's right, Tang Tian said seriously, his expression solemn. Ping Xiaoshan, who was greatly encouraged, immediately sat up straight and said resolutely, Master is right. Xiaoshan will definitely remember it. Ping Xiaoshan's heart suddenly jumped. Could it be that Master is dying? Is he going to pass down the inheritance to me before he dies? If not, why would Master impart it to me at such a weak time? Seeing the cautious Ping Xiaoshan in front of him, Tang Tian coughed lightly. Xiaoshan, let me see your law threads. He had already decided, when everyone's bodies were tempered to the point where they could absorb life origin essence, he would start a large-scale special training. He was suddenly filled with anticipation for Lu Tianwen's return. When I break the gravel, I cannot touch the vortex, Ping Xiaoshan reminded himself repeatedly. Chapter 732. Upon hearing that the board guillotine blade was related to fighting against Lu Tianwen, Mingzhu immediately said, I will go now. The Saint Realm shook. Dealing with a small pirate like Mei Chen Xiu, not only was it strenuous, but it also made Bing, who was used to big scenes, lose interest. Only the Honorable Martial Continent's Southern Punitive Army could make him excited. Bing roused himself, at least the upcoming battle could make him interested. The few continents that bordered the Honorable Martial Continent would even invite the commanding officers of the Honorable Martial Continent's encampment, which had a long history. The Honorable Martial Continent's tyrannical strength, the surrounding pirates were forbidden, and they were bordered by the Honorable Martial Continent. The profits from their businesses were plentiful, and to form a good relationship with the Honorable Martial Continent was something they had to do. Both sides maintained a good cooperative relationship in private. In the eyes of these continent lords, both sides had common interests, and they also had a share of the profits from the trade. A guillotine it is, Tang Tian said without hesitation. Lu Tianwen frowned. He knew that his brother had always been scheming to obtain the Shui residence, and was willing to take out 200 prisoners to exchange for the Shui residence, which made Lu Tianwen feel strange. What did he think the Shui residence had that was worth attacking? Money? The Lu family was still short of money? Stop joking. This was the largest army in the history of the sacred region. Ming Zhu could not help but turn his head to look at the strong men training with all their might, thinking about the broad guillotine blade that was as tall as a person. He immediately quivered, and immediately said, "Master, if you need it, the forging of the blade is extremely simple. There is enough mystical iron in the castle, and black sand, we can forge it immediately." In the valley, Lu Tianwen was sure that he had underestimated his enemy. "We've prepared one for everyone," Ming Zhu continued. "We have also found some of the blades that Master mentioned. Master, please take a look and see if they are suitable." He had been fooled by the other party's expertise in fist technique. When the other party had first used a saber, he had thought that it was just a smokescreen. What a treacherous villain! Lu Tianwen clenched his teeth. Being proficient in fist techniques is just a trap set up by him. The three armies advanced in three different directions. They were unstoppable and unstoppable. I wonder where this guy is fooling around again. Can he have any sense of responsibility after leaving such a mess to me? As a leader, how could you be so preposterous? I really don't know how to read people properly, and I've brought trouble upon myself. This time, he must not be fooled again. In front of him, all the generals stood solemnly. No one made a sound. They were filled with reverence towards Bing. Furthermore, they knew that although Bing was grumbling, but the relationship between him and Tang Tian was extremely deep. Whoever wanted to run out at this time would be courting death. Within Echo Hill Castle, Moxn has arrived at the front lines of the North Dragon Continent. Chiu Su-hua has arrived at the front lines of the small Changshan Continent, and Go Ching Wendao has arrived at the Demon Continent. The adjutant in charge of intelligence spoke. Just yesterday, the Honorable Marshal Continent made a statement. Because of the conflict between the Shang Continent and the Honorable Marshal Continent, they are only going through the Shang Continent, and all the continents along the way. If anyone wants to pass through, they will not offend them. He had been too careless. Lu Tianwen's attention turned back to Ghost Face Mask Man, after thinking about it, although he was strange, but his strength was still far from mine. Someone who has not even gained enlightenment on a law surface, even if he ignites his primordial fire origin, he is still a bore. For the Shui family to rely on Ghost Face Mask, the inheritance definitely originated from the Shui family. In the past, the Shui family's absolute technique had shaken the entire Sin domain, but it was a pity that the later generations were not up to expectations, and slowly faded from everyone's eyes. Tang Tian's last blade was extremely strange. It actually entered his own spear aura, and exploded. That's right, the Shui family's most famous inheritance, the heavy demonic execution. In the banquet, the continent lords and the generals of the Honorable Martial Army were still chatting about whether or not there would be a war, and the generals laughed and explained that it was only for the internal rebellion of the Honorable Martial Continent, causing the continent lords to be enlightened. Can I change the heavy demonic execution into a hand blade? As for the golden steel threads, although it was also a good thing, but they could be bought from the market. Heavy demonic execution? Tang Tian waved his broad guillotine blade, but still threw it down. Amauri and the rest were suitable, but he was not. He was still not used to the blade in his hands, and suddenly thought of a brazen idea. Compressing their physical strength to the limit, and using laws to temper their bodies, the techniques that Tang Tian had imparted to them were executed to the letter. The Honorable Martial Tiger General's direct subordinate army numbered 10,000, the famous General Army numbered 8,000, the Standard Honorable Martial Army numbered 5,000, every army had a total of 110,000 men. Adding on the support personnel, the number would reach a terrifying 150,000, and the total number would reach 450,000. Tang Tian's eyes lit up. I want that. In the midst of a life of luxury and debauchery, the Southern Punitive Army braved the rain, like an unstoppable flood. Under the guidance of disguised merchant groups, they surged into the few continents. The Sin Domain's blade techniques are so powerful, how can I not have heard of them before? Under Chiu Su-hua's command, other than the Chiu-hua army, Zi Che Jiajing, Wei Yu, Feng Yunman, the three famous generals each led their own armies. Bing stood up with an expressionless face. Now, I will give out the following orders to the various armies. He swept his gaze across the generals. All of their faces were still filled with immaturity. He knew that the scale of the war would allow them to grow quickly. They were all seeds that he had carefully selected, and all of them had outstanding potential. Tang Tian thought about the null division. If every single one of them were to wield such a tyrannical broad guillotine blade, how majestic would that be? Just thinking about it made him excited. So few? Tang Tian frowned. I still want everyone to have one. All of them had tensed up muscles, perspiration covered their bronze skin, all of them looked as though they were cast in bronze, and would occasionally release loud roars. When the ladies of the Shui family passed by, all of them could not bear to look away. They had never seen such masculine beauty before. The honorable martial continent's 5 great generals, other than Mu Jixia, who was guarding the Wei Yiguan continent, Jiaya, who was guarding the center, Missouri Xian, Chiu Suhua and Goqing Wendao, the 3 great generals were all out. Bing's finger that was holding onto his cigarette stopped. He squeezed out 2 words from his teeth, seeking death. A man with a big blade. The golden steel clothes that we produce have outstanding defensive capabilities, and its most powerful point is that it is able to evenly distribute the power that it can withstand. Ming Zhu's tone was filled with pride. The golden steel clothes was the Shui family's most famous product, and was renowned throughout the Xin domain. This is the broad guillotine blade. Ming Zhu introduced. It is currently the largest blade in use. It weighs 900 kilograms, and has no sharpening edge. This blade no longer needs sharpening. It is made from black iron, and with the addition of black sand, it is extremely sturdy. But it has a high requirement for power. Yes, yes, yes. Tang Tian nodded his head. I want this, the faster the better. Can we finish it before Lu Tianwen comes again? The Honorable Martial Continent's southern expedition was too sudden, and even the higher-ups of the Honorable Martial Continent had made the decision at the last minute. Thus the various continents of the southern region were not prepared at all. Although the mobilization of all sorts of resources and personnel made people feel as though a storm was brewing, but the majority of the continents of the southern region did not believe that the Honorable Martial Continent would invade. Amauri and the rest trained in the heavy demonic execution with all their might. Compared to law threads, the violent slashes were more to their liking. Under Goqing Wendao's command, other than the Sky Hook Army, Cliff, Ken, and Zeke, the 3 famous generals, were all sent out, leading their own armies. Other than that, every army had 15 standard honorable martial armies, all led by silver-grade military generals with 10 years of experience. Where is the Honorable Martial Continent's army? Could it be that brother's intention is the heavy demonic execution? Lu Tianwen, who had experienced the might of the heavy demonic execution, felt that it was possible. I am truly looking forward to it. In that moment the world became silent. TSK, this time, we have become public enemies. Bing smacked his lips and said. The Shaman Ji roasted pig trotters disappeared from the menu, causing the various armies to wail. With that, he flew away. Tang Tian glanced around, and was immediately attracted to a blade the size of a door. He walked over and picked it up. Thinking about the female swordsman that he fought with previously, her sword technique was extremely profound, and was obviously not a Xin domain sword technique. But Tang Tian's 3 blades made Lu Tianwen 100% sure that it was a Xin domain blade technique. Suddenly, Lu Tianwen thought about a blade technique that had disappeared for a long time, the heavy demonic execution. Ming Zhu was startled. After a while, he stuttered. Master, there are only 2 of these blades. The news of the war erupting only spread to the world 3 days later. Every time they slashed, they would open their eyes wide in anger, using all of their strength. Everyone knew that Bing was angry, and all of them trembled. He did not return to Purple Cuckoo City, if his nephew were to see his charred appearance, he would feel ashamed. After finding a mountain call, he started to recuperate. In the past few days, he had been reflecting on the battle. Speaking of Wu Ma Tian, it was Aya who ran to Bing to ask for him, and facing Aya's insistence, Bing thought about it and agreed. From then on, Wu Ma Tian became a member of the Skull Unit, but what no one expected was that Aya immediately promoted him to vice commander. The heavy demonic execution consumed a lot of energy, and thinking about it, Ghost Face Mask actually did not chase after him, which meant that he was completely exhausted. Lu Tianwen was extremely regretful. He looked to be in a difficult situation at that time, but in truth, his injuries were not heavy. If he had continued to attack, he would have pierced through Ghost Face Mask's spear. Lu Tianwen clenched his teeth and swore in his heart. Wu Ma Tian felt uncomfortable. It was his first time participating in such a high-standard military conference. Aya, who was beside him, stood extremely straight, her eyes looking down. Yes, yesterday there were 7 families that announced that they were leaving the Southern Alliance. When Go Ching Wendao broke through the Dark Sand continent, he met with intense resistance and suffered heavy losses. Go Ching Wendao was enraged, and ordered for a massacre. No one was spared. Wu Ma Tian became the fastest rising general, causing countless people to be jealous. The various continents of the southern region were in chaos. The broad guillotine blade was definitely a blade that was rarely used, and the Shui family had only prepared 2 of them for display. All of the generals present revealed looks of indignation. Ming Zhu brought Tang Tian to the weapon rack, and all sorts of blades were placed on it. The heavy demonic execution was the inheritance of the Shui family, and blades were naturally the most common weapon in the Shui family. Bing grumbled. He spat out a smoke ring and grumbled. He had a special connection with Tang Tian, and knew that Tang Tian was not dead, so he was not anxious. As long as he was not dead, it was fine. As for anything else, what more could he ask for? That guy has always been unreliable. Under Mo Xian's command, other than Mo Xian's army, Yuan Wei, Shui Donglu, Lu Guang, the 3 great generals led the 3 big armies. He naturally understood the value of the golden steel clothes. It was strong when gathering power, and weak when dispersed. If it was able to disperse the enemy's attacks, it would definitely be a life-saving item. In the top 50 of the list of powerhouses, only one person had ignited his primordial fire origin. Chapter 733. Lu Tianwen's spear seemed to have landed under Ghost Face Mask's blade, causing Ghost Face Mask's blade to shatter, while Lu Tianwen's spear aura suddenly inflated like a balloon. Boom! It exploded! Lu Tianwen was immediately blasted black, while half of Ghost Face Mask's body was badly mutilated. Do you know what I saw? I can see Ghost Face Mask's wounds healing and growing. Su Ye's face changed. He placed his hand on Su Anzhong's forehead, and a thread of life qi entered Su Anzhong's body. After a moment, he let out a sigh of relief. Su Anzhong was fine. Spitting out this mouthful of blood was far better than not spitting it out. At this moment, Su Anzhong's voice was no longer trembling. He stood up with an indescribable flush of excitement on his face. His voice was also filled with excitement. That slash was from the bottom up, as if it was going to split the sky. Lu Tianwen's reaction was extremely fast. His second spear was also extremely ferocious. Like a whirlpool, the blade and spear clashed. This time, Ghost Face Mask did not have it easy either. He was sent flying back. Lu Tianwen was in an even worse state. He was directly nailed into the mountain. Law of life. Su Yi was shocked. His face was overwhelmed with shock. He trained in life and death laws. How could he be unfamiliar with life laws? He was pondering on how to use the heavy demonic execution with his hand blade. The Echo Hill Castle was bustling with activity. The heavy demonic execution was not as simple as he thought it to be. Even the descendants of the Shui clan had lost the inheritance of this absolute art. It seemed simple. Tang Tian could also imitate the last two moves, and the power was not small either. However, Tang Tian knew that it was still far from the true power of these two moves. Sweat doesn't lie. The body is just that honest. Chi La, water was poured onto the blade, and the blood-stained blade dimmed. Hot mist surged. Tang Tian was full of confidence as he practiced over and over again. Geniuses learned with their brains, but godlike youngsters always learned with their muscles. Was this the problem of the bowl being too big and not being able to hold enough rice? Su Yi remained silent. What did it mean to sacrifice oneself? What was the sky demon faceless? He just couldn't figure it out. Sure enough, happiness came from comparison. That's right, it's the law of life, ha ha ha. 16 moves? Is it really Lu Tian one? However, Tang Tian didn't want to waste the space of transformation. With the space of transformation, it meant that there was still room for improvement. A battle between experts was often decided by a thin line. During this seclusion, his strength had taken a qualitative leap. Even though he looked calm on the surface, his heart was filled with unprecedented confidence. He could now clearly see the back of his elder brother, who used to be out of reach in his heart. Although it was a little bitter, fortunately, a group of delicate little girls used a large cart to push a cart full of guillotine blades to the training ground. They could confidently say, "We painstakingly forged these, you can't lose." After a long while, Su Yi asked with difficulty, "And then?" Su Anzhong sat down, grabbed the food on the table, and wolfed it down. For the past few days, he had been guarding outside the city like a cat in the mountains, just to keep an eye on the Echo Hill Castle. If not for him cultivating bitterly, he would not have been able to endure it. After a long time, the shock in his heart gradually calmed down, and he couldn't help but fall into deep thought. Of course, Tang Tian wasn't that vulgar, only Chie understood the loneliness of a young man. The scarlet molten iron was poured out from the furnace, and flowed through the channels that had long been dug into the molds. Although it lacked the sharpness of a weapon, but his fists and palms were more flexible, and Tang Tian felt that his own body was much stronger than any ordinary weapon. This time, Lu Tianwen was completely enraged. He rushed out, his entire body floating with wind and thunder. There were many of them. His spear tip released circle after circle of ripples, sweeping all of the wind and thunder inside, and then he thrust it out. Ghost Face Mask raised his blade, and his aura became very strange. The last transformation of a real blade was at the wrist, while the last transformation of a hand blade was at the fingers. That also meant that using a real blade to unleash the heavy demonic execution was just right. And using a hand blade to unleash the heavy demonic execution, there was still room for transformation. That was why the power of his blade was able to enter Lu Tianwen's spear aura and explode. That's what I saw. After testing it out a few times, Tang Tian felt that it was possible. Finger techniques, palm techniques, leg techniques, joint techniques, they were all martial techniques that he was proficient in. Su Anzhong had already digested the shock in his heart. It was Tang Tian's first time encountering such a situation. There was so much room for transformation, causing him to be at a loss. He gulped down a mouthful of water and stopped for a moment, then said, "Thunder Wind Spear Lu Tianwen, I am definitely not wrong. That Thunder Wind Spear is truly destructive. I do not dare to get close, and can only watch from afar. He is ranked 39 on the list of powerhouses, truly powerful." After being silent for a full 5 minutes, Su Anzhong's hoarse voice came out. Lu Tianwen was sent flying. The hand blade was more suitable to unleash the heavy demonic execution than a real blade, but only Tang Tian could use it like that, because his physical body was extremely tyrannical. His palms were able to use the origin force in his entire body. If it was any other person using the hand blade, their palms would explode like a balloon, exploding into pieces. Tang Tian was extremely familiar with the hand blade. In the past, there was an old man who said that he was suitable to become a close-quarters combat expert, although he had not achieved it yet, but his close-quarters combat abilities were truly stronger. Seems like a lot of things have to be replanned. She took more than 10 moves from Lu Tianwen? Su Ye's expression was strange. SuEnzhong's fingers that were on his knees were trembling, but he did not notice it. After a long while, Su Yi then spoke up. You said that was Lu Tianwen? Why is that? He was able to use devil eye execution because he had experienced the struggle and entanglement of being at a loss, and it was the resonance of his mental state that allowed the origin force in his body to reach a miraculous equilibrium, like the feeling of enlightenment after the confusion, the clear sky after the rain, or the sunlight after the fog. Yes. SuEnzhong replied vaguely. He was enjoying his elder brother's shock. In his memories, his elder brother was always extremely intelligent, and one could never hope to see any surprise or shock on his elder brother's face, only a faint smile and unfathomable profoundness, as well as a profound meaning. Su Yi was overwhelmed with shock. At that moment, SuEnzhong actually understood his elder brother's feelings. That's right, any random person can block Lu Tianwen's 14 moves. That is truly hard to accept. Tang Tian was completely oblivious to everything else. Tell me in detail. Su Ye's current expression was extremely solemn, as though his entire family was about to be annihilated. Su Ye's expression could no longer be described as weird. SuEnzhong looked as though he had gone mad, his face flushed red, and suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. He fell to the ground, his face as white as paper. Tang Tian did not know how to describe it, but he could feel the resonance between his origin force and his mental state, and that was the true brilliance of the heavy demonic execution. The group of ferocious men had never received such treatment before, and the flirtatious voices of the little pixies immediately caused them to have goosebumps. Their fighting intent soared to the point that their bodies were about to release flames. All of them held onto their door-sized guillotine blades, and patted their chests, which sounded like metal clashing against metal. Extremely tyrannical, they spoke arrogant words about being dismembered by 5 horses, chopped into 8 pieces, beaten into a pile of shit. Their morale was extremely high. Su Yi did not make a sound. He saw SuEnzhong struggle, and became even more shocked. Su Yi was startled. He opened his eyes wide. Lu Tianwen was sent flying? But there was a huge difference between a hand blade and a blade. After activating it a few times, he was able to completely use the hand blade, but Tang Tian felt that it was slightly awkward. When SuEnzhong said the word, truly ferocious, he gritted his teeth. How is that possible? That's right. Until he witnessed the battle between the two abnormal humans, all of his confidence was instantly destroyed and turned into ashes. He initially thought that his sword heart was like steel, but now he could only laugh bitterly, so when he saw his elder brother's shocked face, he immediately felt that his broken sword heart had recovered a bit. Ming Zhu rolled up her sleeves, her face was covered in soot, the entire residence was filled with women, and they were helpless to do anything about it. Everyone knew that it was a matter of life and death. All of the delicate young ladies did not make a sound, and immersed themselves in their work. Yes. SuEnzhong took a deep breath and continued. Directly fly out. Ghost Face Mask's figure only moved back a bit. He frantically rushed out, not to fly, but to rush. It was a very strange footwork. He compressed the air beneath his feet into an inverted bowl shape, and then stepped on it, borrowing the momentum to rush forward. Fast. So fast that no one could see it clearly. He rushed to Lu Tianwen, and slashed out a second time. The battle had given him too many shocks. Regardless of whether it was Lu Tianwen or Ghost Face Mask, their strength far surpassed his. After that, Ghost Face Mask went up. SuEnzhong recalled the scene from that day, and his voice started to tremble. He raised his blade. At that time, I felt that it was strange, because Ghost Face Mask had never used a blade before. He suddenly appeared beside Han Bingning, and took over Han Bingning, and slashed at Lu Tianwen's spearhead. With that, they were evenly matched, and Ghost Face Mask threw Han Bingning back. Suddenly, he retreated and appeared in front of Lu Tianwen, and slashed. That blade was very strange. It was held up firmly without any accumulation of power, and fell down like a guillotine. Su Yi listened carefully. He could picture the scene of the battle in his mind, and SuEnzhong's trembling voice made him feel an indescribable fear and nervousness. But that battle was actually able to cause an expert likeEnzhong to develop a heart demon. SuEnzhong thought about it. That's right, if Lu Tianwen wanted to wipe out someone's family, other than the Qin family, no one else in Purple Cuckoo City will be able to escape. SuEnzhong thought about Han Bingning, and could not help but feel admiration for her. Under such pressure, she was still able to persevere for so long, although she was a lady, but she had the heart of a swordsman. Tang Tian fell into deep thought, and very quickly found the crux of the problem, the last change. SuEnzhong spoke quickly, his face revealing a bewitching red flush, his hands and feet dancing, his expression somewhat crazy. When Lu Tianwen appeared, he did not hide anything, and directly attacked the Echo Hill Castle. The first person to stop him was Han Bingning. Han Bingning was probably in his hands, and after 10 over moves, she was injured. There is no need to polish, there is no need to sharpen it, seize the time, and do it again. He had not comprehended the true meaning of heavy demonic execution, or sacrificial execution, and demonic phaseless execution. He realized that starting from the devil eye execution onwards, every slash was no longer just a technique, it required the coordination of the mind. That's right. SuEnzhong squinted his eyes and thought about it, then said with certainty, 16 moves. Su Yi was dumbstruck. He was directly nailed into the mountain. SuEnzhong stopped. He did not say a word, only the veins on his forehead and the back of his hands occasionally popped out, showing the agitation in his heart. He was trying his best to control his emotions. He was trying to get rid of the shadow of the battle. Luckily it is the simplest forging, if not, Ming Zhu and the rest will not have the ability to do so. The news gave him a huge shock, to the point that he was unable to digest it. Chapter 734. Everyone was surprised. From where they were, the Echo Hill Castle was just a small black dot in their vision. This is the place. Su Anzhong, who had been silent all this while, suddenly opened his mouth. His face was pale, but he was still full of energy. After experiencing the trial of the heart demons, although his internal injuries were not light, his foundation was not damaged. As long as he could defeat his inner demons, his strength would transform once again. The group walked outside the city. No one dared to fly. Instead, they carefully walked along the mountain path. If Lu Tianwen were to see it, everyone would die in one shot, and they would not even have a place to cry out for help. The green wind and lightning around Lu Tianwen's body flashed, and he disappeared into the sky. The door to the training room opened. One by one, strong figures covered in sweat stood up straight, carrying their broad guillotine blades on their shoulders. Their faces were filled with fighting spirit. Everyone agreed in their hearts. Regardless of whether Ghost Face Mask won or lost, Ben Sun had profited. We will do our own things. Ming Zhu remained calm, as though she was not affected at all. Only her fingers that were tightly gripping her sleeves revealed the same worry in her heart. His Excellency had been in his room for 3 whole days. It's just a few days of work, it won't take up too much of everyone's time, seeing is believing. Su Yi said. In the corner, Nie Qiu, who was seated cross-legged, suddenly said, "Then let's end this battle before the rainbow stream appears." Nie Qiu's voice was no longer as gentle as usual, but had become extremely cold. An expert on the list of combat power? How exciting! Everyone's expression changed as they looked at the 2 little girls. The wounds on his body had long since healed, but he wasn't in a hurry to attack Shadow Mountain Castle. Instead, he was resting his mind. This was where he was experienced. He knew that it was a great taboo to rush to the door and attack. He had spent a few days nurturing his essence, qi, and spirit. Today, his essence, qi, and spirit were all at their peak. Ming Zhu was in a daze. The fate of the Shui family was currently tied to Master Ghost Face Mask. Adjust your breathing before the battle. I've fought him before. No one can become so strong in such a short period of time. Black Ben Sin remained expressionless. His tone was low and powerful, and had a convincing feel to it. His words were equally convincing. Everyone was a little dumbfounded. The two energetic girls with crisp voices made it impossible for anyone to associate them with the more iron guard. I don't believe it either, Victor agreed. Everyone quickly entered their battle positions. The familiar training process made him feel like he had returned to the past. The sound of the wind that filled the sky disappeared. He withdrew his technique and stood upright. His face was covered with beads of sweat, and his eyes were like stars. Behind the door, everyone's breathing suddenly stopped. This was the place where he had watched the previous battle. Su Anzhong said solemnly, "If we get any closer, they will notice." I don't believe it. In the corner, the hair on Niechio's forehead moved without any wind. The Null Division members who were training bitterly stopped, and did not make a sound. Tang Tian's expression was solemn, and his whole body emitted a piercingly cold battle intent. He passed through the training ground and walked out of the stone castle. He stepped onto the stone wall and sat down cross-legged, closing his eyes to rest. She had a tall and slender figure, a neat battle suit, an exquisite oval face, a ponytail, and a pair of big smiling eyes. The two of them looked exactly the same, and it was impossible to tell them apart. It was Lu Tianwen, not anyone else. He was ranked 39 on the list of powerhouses. In other words, to be ranked 39 in the entire Sin domain, what kind of existence was that? Do not think that they were all famous people in Purple Cuckoo City, but in front of Lu Tianwen, they were all trash. Everyone's faces changed. Was that the strength of a martial artist on the list of powerhouses? Isn't that a bit too far? Victor muttered. Tang Tian looked as though he was possessed, using his hand blades again and again. He trained in the heavy demonic execution. In the spacious and dim training ground, only Tang Tian's figure was there. A faint light aura shone down from above, landing on the figure who was perspiring profusely. Black Ben Sun said expressionlessly, "Greetings, seniors." The two young ladies greeted at the same time. Now we have to see if Ghost Face Mask can survive Lu Tianwen's attack. Dismantling, assembling, training. He did not know how many times he had trained. It had been a long time since he had trained for so long. The Null Division members who were perspiring profusely, all of their eyes exploded with light auras, the fighting intent in their bodies quietly ignited. Tang Tian's actions gave them a signal. Master is ready. Her mood became joyous. Even Su Yi revealed a rarely seen look of vexation. To any family, they would always spare no effort in grooming their youths. I have placed too much emphasis on the family's benefits. Why didn't I think of that? In the violent gale, a figure that was as stable as a boulder passed through the door and entered everyone's eyes. Su Yi, who was resting with his eyes closed, suddenly spoke out, causing everyone to immediately become alert and look over. But very quickly, everyone reacted. The big black man is still the most astute. That's right, why didn't I think of that? Everyone immediately revealed looks of regret. A battle between martial artists of Lu Tianwen's level was something that could only be chanced upon, and to be able to personally witness it, it would definitely be beneficial for them in the future. He looked up at the sky. The rainbow stream was fast approaching. The life origin essence that he had absorbed previously was completely stimulated. The endless origin force gave him an endless amount of strength. The others did not say anything, all of them had their own thoughts. Enter the battle position. Everyone's mood immediately became bad. Tang Tian walked forward slowly without saying a word. Now we can only wait. Su Yi smiled, although the Roland family had snatched first, but he had more chips in his hands. As long as he had the null division prisoners, he had the qualifications to bet. Benson said with an expressionless face, "You better not provoke them, they just passed the death-smelting trial." "Yes, let them see the world." Benson remained expressionless. "Guys, get ready for battle." Amaury grinned. Victor, on the other hand, had a bitter taste in his mouth. The elders in his family were a bunch of idiot. If Ghost Face Mask was killed by Lu Tianwen, it would be fine, but if not... The previous setback was mostly because he had underestimated his opponent. This time, no matter what, he would not underestimate his opponent. Wherever the azure lightning flashed, the sky seemed to boil. The sound of rolling thunder came from afar, as if a raging tide was sweeping over from afar. Instead, she was praying that Ghost Face Mask did not die. It was certain that he could not beat Lu Tianwen, but as long as he could survive, he would definitely have the qualifications to enter the list of powerhouses. On the stone wall, Tang Tian opened his eyes. "How many days are we going to stand guard in the wilderness?" Su, who had been acting as if he hadn't heard them all this time, suddenly spoke. "Sweat doesn't lie." Tang Tian always remembered it. He didn't know many principles, but he never dared to forget this one. "I am Xiao Yu." "I am Xiao Yi." Ghost Face Mask's strength had to be re-evaluated. On the stone tiles on the ground, there were many horizontal lines marked with cinnabar. It was Nie Chio's meticulously calculated battle positions. Every battle position was determined after repeated measurements and calculations. The sweat gradually dried. Their bronze-colored skin was like metal. The 64 figures in the field remained motionless, like 64 bronze statues. Nie Chio, who was hidden in the shadows, was like an ancient monk meditating. His gray pupils were dim and without light. If not for the occasional shouts coming from inside, they would have rushed in long ago. A favor from a ranker on the list of powerhouses was definitely the most successful investment the Roland clan had made in all these years. She couldn't help but glance at Victor. She thought to herself, "This dead man is quite knowledgeable. He can still think of me at such a critical moment. Is Master Ghost Face Mask all right?" Xiao Yao was filled with worry. "Master has not moved for a few days. Lu Tianwen is here. We'll know in 2 days." Su Yi had already calmed down from the shock yesterday, and regained his usual indifference. Lu Tianwen has suffered a huge loss, and will not let it go. Such might cause everyone to be overwhelmed with shock. Inside the valley, Lu Tianwen slowly opened his eyes. At that moment, there was no trace of ruthlessness or insanity in his eyes, only calmness. Is that Lu Tianwen? Is that an expert on the list of powerhouses? Victor glanced at the twin young ladies beside Benson and clicked his tongue in wonder. "Old Black, your eyesight is not bad. Where did you find these 2 beautiful sisters?" Amaury and the rest held on to their broad guillotine blades. All of them closed their eyes and meditated. Their orderly and long breaths converged into one, filling the room like the wind. In the entire Purple Cuckoo City, only Qin Zhen could be on the list of powerhouses. "I don't know," Su Yi replied honestly. "No one knows when Lu Tianwen will recover, and when he will come back." Perspiration flowed down his cheeks. His entire body looked as though he was pulled out from the water. The mist around him was faintly discernible in the faint light. He was extremely focused, for 3 consecutive days and nights. He had trained in heavy demonic execution countless of times. Qin Zhen's ambition caused the other families to feel the immense pressure. The Teopiot family was willing to rely on them, but the other families were not. Under the immense pressure, everyone was looking for variables. Amaury stood up. He grabbed the broad guillotine blade and placed it on his shoulder. Whoosh, the gray tiny null flames soared from the blade's body and extended along the gigantic blade's body. Echo Hill Castle. It was definitely not a pleasant thing to be in the wilderness. The rainbow flow, fierce beasts, etc., all sorts of dangers, with no way to bathe. To the ladies, unless it was absolutely necessary, no one was willing to be in the wilderness. And from what Su Yi said, it was not just for a day. This generation of steel guards? Roland, Sue could not help but ask. After living in their hometown for so many years, they naturally knew of the death trials. It was the steel guard's most cruel trial. Roland's face became ugly, but she did not say a word. She knew the importance of the matter. Thinking about her bet, she became happy again. Ghost Face Mask was able to fight against Lu Tianwen. As long as Ghost Face Mask did not die, the favor was worth a city to the Roland family. No one believed that Ghost Face Mask was actually able to fight against such a ferocious man. Ming Zhu covered her mouth, her face filled with shock. She had never seen a group of people actually breathing in unison. In that moment, the group of people in front of her seemed to have transformed into a gigantic fierce beast that was conserving its strength. A green figure shot through the air like lightning, whistling through the air. "Please take care of me," the two of them said at the same time. He stood up, grabbed onto the Thunder Wind spear beside him, and slowly walked out of the valley. In his heart, he had already placed Ghost Face Mask and Tang Tian on the same level as him. He was waiting for Lu Tianwen. Chapter 735. But Lu Tianwen was in a frenzy. He wanted to kill Ghost Face Mask. He wanted to destroy all of them. Lu Tianwen never thought that Tang Tian would actually be able to change his technique at such a time. All of his attention was focused on the tip of his spear. Caught off guard, he felt a strong force coming from beneath his feet, causing his vision to blur. Before he could react, he was pushed into the sky by the shockwave. He had been bitterly holding on until now. One after another, the wind and lightning balls followed him and floated towards the Echo Hill Castle. They took half a step forward with their left legs at the same time, lowering their center of gravity. The broad guillotine blades rested on their shoulders, their right palms grasping the hilt of the blades firmly, their bodies leaning forward. Everyone's face was drained of blood. He had never seen the wind and thunder crystal spear before, but the transparent spear tip gave him goosebumps. Tang Tian never thought that Lu Tianwen would actually be so crazy and disregard everything. However, there was no point in thinking about that now. An extremely dazzling spear aura lit up in front of him, and fiercely collided with his hand blade, severing the heavens. Buzz. He didn't want to think about any techniques or moves. He just wanted to kill them all. Completely humiliated. He had actually been humiliated. The long spear was like a greedy and thirsty beast, constantly devouring the wind and lightning balls. The green light around his body became more and more intense, so intense that even his face and figure could not be seen clearly. Tang Tian came to a realization. It was far better to keep a variation than to use it directly. One more change meant one more leeway, one more choice. In a fierce battle, one more choice and leeway meant one more chance of winning, just like what happened just now. Ha 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 ha, none of you can escape. Blade Devil Transformation. What a pity. Su Yi muttered, a trace of fear surfaced in his eyes. Lu Tianwen laughed maniacally. His mind was no longer clear. He did not care about the consequences of projecting power from his law surface. The power had already exceeded the limit that he could control. He could not see the ghost faces clearly, but he did not care, they were just like ants. Ming Zhu was stunned. Absolutely unforgivable. Boom. Everyone raised their heads and stared at the back of the figure outside the gate. Whoosh, regiment after regiment of gray tiny null flames soared from the blade and enveloped the blade. Over and over again, he was toyed with and humiliated. And when more than 100 of such balls of wind and lightning appeared at the same time, it was no longer fear. They didn't even have the slightest thought to resist. Su Yi and the rest who were watching from afar were all pale white. They had imagined how strong Lu Tianwen was, but they never expected that the martial artist on the list of powerhouses was much stronger than what they had imagined. Lu Tianwen's hair floated up, the wind and thunder around him transformed into balls of wind and thunder. The wind lightning ball was about the size of a bamboo basket. It flashed with dazzling azure lightning and emitted a terrifying aura. Tang Tian slowly pulled back his fist. He had never completely executed the godly fist before. The vast sea of transformation imprints frantically flashed past his heart. The sky was filled with smoke and clouds, the flickering light and passing shadows. The origin chi in his body was being consumed at an astonishing rate. Unforgivable. Shock, there was only shock in her heart. Tang Tian stood up, the origin chi in his body surged. The whistling of the wind and thunder caused his fighting intent to soar. Amauri's eyes blazed with flames. Fundamental Tang, Amauri can finally fight alongside you. He appeared in front of Lu Tianwen. His palm was like a blade, and with a terrifying might, he slashed down. Without any nonsense, Tang Tian's body flashed and disappeared. An even more surging rage surged. Lu Tianwen completely went berserk. Lu Tianwen once again felt that he had been played, completely played. He did not think that Tang Tian's last transformation was forced. He only felt that Tang Tian did it intentionally. You are intentionally using the exact same technique as the last time, to bait me into falling for it. Bang bang bang. The long and loud breathing that resembled that of a prehistoric beast suddenly stopped. The 64 statues all came to life at the same time. They opened their eyes at the same time. The broad guillotine blades that were as tall as humans were raised at the same time and placed on their shoulders. Using a hand blade to unleash the heavy demonic execution, compared to using a blade, had an additional transformation. Regarding this transformation, Tang Tian had never thought of how to use it, but in a moment of desperation, he actually used it. Extermination? Countless of wind and thunder, like light auras, entered his spear tip. There were no more wind or thunder. The spear tip became transparent like a crystal. The starlight in the sky became smaller and thicker. Lu Tianwen's body was forced back once again. Countless thoughts flashed past his mind. Seems like the opponent has noticed the problem with the blade. But, to think of using a hand blade, it is too absurd. No matter how strong the body is, can it compare to a treasure? An indescribable aura pervaded out. The lupus men became even more excited. They clenched their teeth. The veins on their arms that held onto their blades popped out. The fanatical flames almost burned them into ashes. Fight with the king. Tang Tian felt as though he was standing under a sky full of stars. Every star was a mark of transformation. Heh! Behind the door, the Null Division members who were prepared to attack all had their veins popping out. They clenched their teeth to resist the terrifying pressure. Zila. As expected of the 39th ranker on the list of powerhouses. He felt that he was being humiliated. The sequence of Ghost Face Mask's attacks was exactly the same as the previous time. Wind and thunder crystal thrust. Every step he took would cause the sky to tremble, the pressure that could destroy the heavens and earth, as though MT Tai was pressing down on him. The smile on Tang Tian's face disappeared. Attack! Every single one of Lu Tianwen's nerves was burning with rage. He felt as though he was going crazy and about to explode. A fly-like man was actually toying with him and humiliating him time and time again. The low growl brought about a heart-palpitating tremor, causing the entire space to tremble. Ha 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 ha, all of you will die. The explosion created a circular chi wave that swept out in all directions. Lu Tianwen's hysterical laughter resonated in the sky, and could be heard from far away. Why are their fighting intents so intense? They had seen wind and thunder before, but they had never seen wind and thunder congealed into such a huge ball. Such a ball, upon exploding, could directly destroy a mountain peak. Is this the Null Division? With a roar, Tang Tian once again rushed forward. Tang Tian did not give chase, but instead retreated backwards until he was 10 m away from the stone wall, and then stopped. Tang Tian's eyes flashed with a look of madness, his mouth revealing a sinister smile. Tang Tian did not use his blade, but used his hand to unleash a power that was even stronger than the previous time. Threads of starlight grew from the stars, they converged in different directions, and 10 of them converged into one. The newly formed light continued to grow, and 10 of them converged into one. His spear spun, and a strange suction force enveloped the sky. In the blink of the eye, the spinning spear was like a vortex, and all the basket-sized balls of wind and thunder flew towards his spear. The astonishing chi wave exploded beneath Lu Tianwen's feet. The two of them had been accumulating power for a long time, and the collision was far more intense than the previous time. A sickle-shaped chi wave struck the mountain peak, and the 30 m tall mountain peak was sliced apart like tofu, and the top half of the mountain peak slowly slid down. Go and die. Seeing Lu Tianwen flying in the sky, Tang Tian secretly wiped off his cold sweat. It was truly too dangerous. He never thought that the problem that had troubled him for the past few days would actually be realized at such a time. His trembling body suddenly stopped, and he suddenly spat out 2 words. His voice that was as gentle as jade was hoarse like smoke at this moment. Lu Tianwen sneered in his heart. Lu Tianwen was completely enraged. He had thought of all sorts of scenarios, but he never thought that the battle would be the same as the previous one. When Lu Tianwen saw Tang Tian, his eyes immediately turned red, his aura suddenly exploded out, and countless of green wind and thunder quickly formed around him. The continuous wind and thunder were formed and extinguished. They were like waves, undulating and undulating. A ball of wind and thunder was absorbed by the spear, causing Lu Tianwen's body to be surrounded by a green wind and thunder aura. There was no sound of the wind, but the transparent spear tip gave Tang Tianwen an unprecedented sense of danger. Without thinking, Tang Tian slashed out with a hand blade that was like an illusion, forcefully turning the blade into a palm, and slapped down at Lu Tianwen's feet. Lu Tianwen only felt a surge of blood rushing to his head. Without thinking, the spear in his hand trembled, and thrust it out. Is this a martial artist on the list of powerhouses? My spear should not taste good either. No, these 100 balls of wind and thunder are enough to blow the entire Purple Cuckoo City into ruins, and the number of people who can survive will not exceed 100. Zzzzzzzzz. The dense air shield was like a bridge floating in the air. He was like a ghost, sweeping forward like lightning, appearing in front of Lu Tianwen in an instant, his hand blade slashing upwards. The battle was extremely fast, to the point that Ming Zhu did not even have time to hide in the castle. She looked at the robust men in a daze. Don't they know what kind of enemy they are facing? Don't they know that the enemy outside only needs one finger to crush them like ants? Everyone knew what Su Yi meant. Ghost Face Mask was dead for sure. No one would be able to survive under the barrage of 100 balls of wind and thunder. Even Roland Su's face was ashen. She knew that she had failed. But strangely, she did not have any regrets. To lose to a powerful martial artist like Lu Tianwen, what regrets would there be? Bang! Behind the door, in the corner, Nie Chio's face revealed a look of pain. His face was pale white. His body was trembling uncontrollably. His back was drenched in sweat. He was using his extremely sharp senses to monitor the entire battlefield. The two people fighting were much stronger than him. The berserk and chaotic flow of energy in the battlefield leaked out a bit of cold killing intent, and even the changes in the laws in the battlefield caused him to bear a huge burden. Lu Tianwen was extremely aggressive. The wind and thunder contained in his spear was even denser than the previous time, and the power was even more tyrannical. The previous time, Tang Tian was only slightly pushed back, but this time, Tang Tian flew out for a distance of 70 m before stabilizing himself. The extremely dense wind and thunder caused Tang Tian's entire arm to go numb. Tang Tian was not surprised, but happy instead. He circulated his origin force, and the numbness in his arm disappeared. More importantly, from the clash, he could see that using his hand blade to unleash the heavy demonic execution was even more outstanding. His confidence soared. The scene in front of him completely toppled Ming Zhu's understanding. Even if it was the Qin family's most direct line of elites, If they knew that there was a martial artist on the list of powerhouses outside, no one would dare to go out, and to be able to escape was already considered loyal. Chapter 736. Under the starry sky, behind Tang Tian, a gigantic figure of a heavenly demon appeared. It had 3 heads and 6 arms, releasing a faint gold light. The golden light feathers slowly flew up to the stars in the sky. Amauri felt his body becoming lighter, and upon hearing Niechio's kill, he felt his entire body trembling. Carrying the door-sized broad guillotine blade, he roared and rushed out. This was the only thought in Imo Li's mind. It was a simple thought that could not be any simpler. Amauri's mouth could not produce any sound. The roar in his heart resounded. How can I forever hide behind fundamental Tang? Is it still not enough? The extreme slow and extreme fast speed formed a strong contrast. The origin force that flew out from Tang Tian's body became lesser and lesser. The light beams grew slower and slower. Tang Tian's consciousness became blurry. He felt that his body was empty, and there was nothing left. Fundamental Tang, I have long seen through you. You can't lie to me. Tang Tian was startled. All the distant memories flashed past his eyes like flickering lights. The last 10 light beams, each of them were 30 m thick. They hung down from the sky, growing slower and slower. The heavenly demon statue behind him became dimmer and dimmer. Imo Li, who was covered in blood, suddenly raised his head. His sinister face was covered in blood. He was like a wild beast that was on the brink of desperation, calling for his comrades. He roared, "Come on, fundamental Tang!" The light beams that hung down continued to grow downward. In the final state, the 10 light beams converged into one, taking root, transforming into a gigantic tree of light, containing all the variations of the fist technique system. It became blurry, bit by bit, as though the sound was getting weaker. Amauri's eyes were wide open. He grabbed onto the blade hilt tightly, using all his strength to burn every inch of his flesh and blood. He slowly raised his bent waist. The cracking sounds of his bones sounded out, but he did not seem to hear it. That's it. It was as though he was placed under the stars. He frantically ignited the origin force in his body. The burning origin force floated out from his body. Like petals, they entered the sky full of stars. Although the heavenly demon Colossus behind him was no longer releasing golden light, its existence prevented the trees of light that had yet to fully grow from going out of control. Amauri carried the broad guillotine blade. Every muscle in his body tensed up, veins popping out. He was like a raging bull, resisting the overwhelming pressure. Lu Tianwen's aura enveloped the entire place. He had already entered a berserk state, and his aura automatically locked onto his target. It would have been fine if Amauri hadn't moved, but once he did, it immediately caused a wisp of chi to lock onto him. Fundamental Tang, let us fight side by side. His trembling left leg slowly left the ground. Every inch he raised required all of his strength. His eyes widened and his face contorted. He used all of the strength in his body. Come, fundamental Tang. The snow-white light aura shone through the door, causing Niechio's figure to become clearer. His body trembled, blood spurted out from his mouth, and as the blood flew, he used all of his strength to shout, "Kill!" Tang Tian shouted to himself in his heart and punched out. Counterattack, that was it. Come on. 100 million into a trillion into 10,000, 10,000 into 1,000, 1,000 into 100, 100 into 10. His mental state had already started to show signs of collapsing, and at that moment, he sensed something strange, causing his mind to tremble. A pressure that was many times stronger than before rushed towards Amauri. Amauri, who was covered in blood and struggling, appeared in the corner of Tang Tian's consciousness. This is the sacrificial execution. His trembling left leg felt the ground, and all of his weight instantly pressed onto the ground. Bang, the stone tiles shattered. Bang. The light ball that was like the sun shot out a dazzling light beam, shooting towards Lu Tianwen, who was like a demon god in the sky. Am I at my limit? Am I going to give up just like that? What kind of joke is this? I am a godlike young lad. Is this the end? Tang Tian, come out and fight with me. The multicolored light aura was too dazzling, and instead looked like a white light, causing people to be unable to open their eyes. The strong pressure caused his entire body to sway, as though there was a mountain pressing down on him. He frantically used all of the strength in his body, his legs, his hands, his back, all of the strength that he could use. Bang bang bang! It was as though a sun had bloomed on Tang Tian's right fist. The dazzling light beam continuously entered Tang Tian's right fist. His hysterical laughter continued to refract in the trembling space, and became like the wails of ghosts and howls of wolves. He suddenly raised his head and sensed something. Sensing the danger, Lu Tian regained a trace of clarity in his mind. He roared and thrust it out with the spear in his hand. Outside the stone wall, Tang Tian slowly pulled back his fist. The space around him started to freeze at a speed visible to the naked eye, as though there was a formless frost that was frantically expanding. Come on! So, no matter what, there is no reason to give up, there is no reason to retreat, there is no reason to be a coward. They are what you cherish, what you want to protect, what you want to accompany. Rush forward, you should be at the front. The fist was pulled back extremely slowly, like a tortoise crawling. Compared to the slow fist, the spread of the frozen space was extremely fast, and the law threads that entered Tang Tian's right fist were also extremely fast. Even if you die, you should be at the front. The thunderous footsteps, along with a Maori's beast-like roar, smashed heavily into Tang Tian's consciousness, causing his blurry consciousness to suddenly sober up. His twisted and sinister face was covered in blood. It was extremely terrifying. At the corner of Tang Tian's mouth, a faint smile surfaced, like the warm sunlight. Tang Tian knew that he had reached his limit. This is Master preparing to counterattack. Inside the dazzling white light, 64 black figures that resembled iron towers raised their heavy broad guillotine blades high up in their hands. Suddenly, footsteps sounded out, and when it landed in Tang Tian's ears, it was like thunder. Every muscle on his face was trembling, perspiration flowed out continuously. Suddenly, dark red blood seeped out from his skin. The red blood mixed with his perspiration and flowed down his face. He screamed and roared in his mind. Come on, fundamental Tang! A burly man covered in blood led 63 iron tower-like men drenched in sweat. Their eyes were wide open in anger, and they roared like thunder. Their muscles bulged, and like 64 ferocious beasts, they crazily charged towards the gate. The pressure on his body increased exponentially, blood seeped out from every part of his skin. He looked like a man made of blood, but Maori felt an indescribable joy. Every inch of his flesh and blood was burning. The berserk fighting intent was about to devour him. The light beams that stopped growing started to grow again. He is the martial artist that I admire the most, the one with the strongest martial artist's heart, the one who is determined to create his own martial Tao, the one with the perfect fundamental Tang Tian, a godlike man. Every step was like a heavy drum, so dense that it caused people to tremble. A Maori. It was a good feeling to be trusted by everyone, to have high hopes placed on him. It was a good feeling to be together with everyone. It was a good feeling to fight side by side with everyone. Threads of power surged out from the originally withered flesh and blood. Following the transformation of the sacrificial execution, it flowed into Tang Tian's body. Lu Tian, who was enveloped in an intense green light, pressed forward step by step. Every step he took caused the ground to shake, and the space to tremble. Everything in his field of vision was trembling intensely. One after another, cracks snaked along the body of the mountain. The sturdy rocks crumbled, and pieces of crushed rocks floated into the sky. The plants and vines silently crumbled into pieces. Niechio was the first to sense it. Under the tyrannical wind and thunder might that could destroy cities, a not considered strong but extremely stable aura was slowly growing. The entire space was trembling, but the space was strangely stable, and it was growing frantically. It was like a soundless whisper floating past his mind. He could not differentiate if it was his whisper or the whisper of the stars in the sky. He felt as though his body had lost all of its strength and slowly floated up. Everything was futile, there was no meaning. He did not dare believe it and was startled. His senses were extremely sharp, so he knew how terrifying Lu Tianwen's attack was, to the point that the entire space around him would collapse. All of the bones in Amaury's body were cracking, his body was trembling intensely, he clenched his teeth tightly, the muscles on his cheeks were trembling, his eyes were bloodshot. Niechio was at a loss. He had switched from the Leo constellation to the Ursa Major constellation. He was filled with ambition, but he never thought that before he had achieved anything, he would die. Is this fate? 30M, 15M. We fight side by side. Niechio could not think of any counterattack that could cause despair in the face of such an attack. Struggle before death? Kill. The people behind him roared in unison, and ran with all their might. Come, fundamental Tang. Amaury. Tang Tian did not have any sorrow in his heart, but instead was extremely calm. That was his conviction, his determination, and he had never seen it so clearly before. Tang Tian's eyes lost their focus, and became emotionless. Crack, crack, crack. Come, fundamental Tang. A warm feeling surfaced in his heart. Tang Tian opened his eyes, his vision was blood-red. The blood mist that shot out had caused the frozen space around him to be dyed red like glass, bringing with it a bewitching beauty. The light aura on his right fist was like a red glass lampshade. To die in battle for the people that I cherish, the people that I want to protect and accompany, is a form of happiness. Huh? All the bones in his body were cracking, all the muscles in his body were trembling, and all the blood in his body was burning. Chi, a blood mist shot out from Tang Tian's body, but Tang Tian did not feel anything. His fist was not affected at all, it was extremely slow and extremely stable. Niechio was bitterly enduring Lu Tianwen's terrifying pressure. His cultivation was crippled, and he was only left with his extraordinary perception. His extraordinary perception made him extremely sharp, and also made him endure an even greater pressure than others. In that moment, perspiration flowed out like a fountain, causing Amaury's entire body to be drenched. Without hesitation, he gave it his all, and slashed with all his might. The dazzling light aura illuminated the entire place, causing it to be as bright as snow. For some reason, the heavy demonic executions, whose sacrificial execution, flashed past Tang Tian's mind. All of the cryptic sentences were lit up like candlelight, and an indescribable enlightenment flowed into Tang Tian's mind. It was not bitter, it was not ruthless, it was not a struggle, it was determination, conviction, and happiness. His footsteps passed through the door and onto the stone wall, one after another, figures soared into the sky. In the sky, the red light aura and the green light aura clashed, creating a clear distinction. Chapter 737. The two young ladies let out a "oh" sound as though they understood, before turning around and flying towards the Echo Hill Castle. They had won. At this moment, Han Bingning was like a sharp and icy cold sword. Her entire person revealed her ability and emitted a piercingly cold sword intent, completely different from her previous restrained self. After being injured last time, she had been in seclusion. Just now, when everyone was fighting with their lives on the line, her heart was filled with unwillingness and regret. At this time, she was actually unable to fight shoulder to shoulder with everyone. She didn't expect to come out of seclusion early. They actually killed Lu Tianwen? Victor's voice sounded as though he was talking in his sleep. Ming Zhu was stunned. It was not only her. The entire Echo Hill Castle had sunk into a strange silence. Sometimes, some things had to be retreated to the starting point, only then would one be able to see their original intentions at that time. His face was covered in blood, but his eyes didn't have the slightest bit of violence or madness. There was only the seriousness and determination of a simple and honest youth. Dang. Come on, a Maori. Everyone quietened down. They were shocked by Victor's suggestion. Ben Sun did not explain further and said, Go. They've just finished a great battle and are short of manpower. You guys should go earlier and you'll be able to help. A breath was stuck in his chest, but he didn't have the chance to breathe. The spear in his hand did not transmit any slashing force. Although it was just one slash, the Null Division members' physical strength were all exhausted. They sat on the ground and gasped for breath. What's going on? Benson stood up. Count me in. The two young ladies were still in a daze and did not understand, but they had been raised by Benson since they were young, and listened to everything he said. The blood on his face gradually turned pale. Normally, he wouldn't even care about a slash of this level. But at this time, he was already an arrow at the end of its flight. The continuous slashes didn't give him the slightest chance to catch his breath. His arms were sore and limp. The faces of the twin sisters were pale, and they seemed to be in a trance. Hiss, her figure flashed, and in the next moment, she appeared beside a Maori and pulled a Maori back. He retreated step by step towards the door, each step leaving a bright red footprint. Everyone looked at each other and burst out laughing. Suye's mutter struck everyone's hearts. I did it! I did it! Did I do it just now? His face contorted and his body trembled, but he gritted his teeth and held on. She also secretly made up her mind that if she could help Victor, she would help him as well. She sighed in her heart. She also understood that the reason why Victor looked for her was to lay a foreshadowing in advance. He hoped that Ghost Face Mask would not make things difficult for the Teopiot family for the sake of his advice. Looking at everyone's hesitant expression, Victor's face flushed red and he said agitatedly, Don't tell me you still want to leave some leeway? Will Qin Zhen give us any leeway? No. If he knows that you gave the prisoners to Ghost Face Mask, and that Ben Sin gave the steel guards to Han Bingning, he will definitely not let us off. We don't stand a chance against the experts on the list of combat power. Only Ghost Face Mask can deal with Qin Zhen. She knew that she had already lost this time. Su Yi revealed a bitter smile. This time, we have boarded the pirate ship. The two ladies looked at Ben Sin blankly. Su was the calmest. She had lost her favor the earliest, and the risk she had to take was the greatest. Naturally, it wasn't something that these bets could compare to. She glanced at Victor, who had a bitter look on his face. Su Yi need not worry. As long as I send the Null Division prisoners over, it will naturally be a favor. The broad guillotine blade hung by his side. Warm, sticky blood slid down the blade and dripped onto the ground. He had already lost count of how many times he had been slashed. He had never given up. Come on, a Maori. At this time, if anyone still did not know that Ghost Face Mask was an extremely thick thigh, then they would truly be stupid. Su was in a daze. The entire process was like a dream. 65 Null Division prisoners was definitely not a small number, and such a huge gamble. To the Roland family, it would be difficult for them to make a second time. If it wasn't for the fact that she had been the head of the family for many years and had great prestige, she wouldn't even have the power to make such a decision. Tang Tian, who was floating in the air, finally relaxed. His vision turned black, and he fell down. Ben Sin had given the two ladies to Han Bingning. It was extremely ingenious. Han Bingning was previously in trouble in the Mu or residence, and that was the reason. Furthermore, no one knew of the relationship between Han Bingning and Ghost Face Mask, and if they gave the ladies to Ghost Face Mask, it would anger Han Bingning, and that would be bad. If they were given to Han Bingning, there would be no hidden danger. Furthermore, even if Han Bingning was Ghost Face Mask's subordinate, he would be an important subordinate. If they could not hug Ghost Face Mask's thigh, hugging Han Bingning's thigh would be a good choice. Lu Tianwen was in a daze. He still did not understand how his technique was broken. The entire law surface's power was projected onto his body, unless the opponent had gained enlightenment on a law domain. If not, they would definitely not be able to break his technique. Clang 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 clang. Victor's eyes flashed with a trace of ruthlessness. Once we choose Ghost Face Mask, we will fall out with Qin Zhen. Do you think Qin Zhen will let us go? Then why don't we go all the way? While Qin Zhen is not around, we will go to the Qin family and save the Null Division prisoners. With the Null Division, Ghost Face Mask will become even stronger, and our contributions will be even greater. Even if Qin Zhen returns, what can he do? He returned to the place he had just started from. He passed through the door, crossed the light, stepped onto the stone wall, and with all his strength, he threw himself out. He suddenly realized that the trembling of the space around him had disappeared, the violent wind and thunder had disappeared, the power projected by the law surface had actually disappeared without a trace. Cold sweat trickled down his face. But who would have thought that not only was Ghost Face Mask not killed by Lu Tianwen, he even killed Lu Tianwen. He originally thought that he had lost everything, but he suddenly struck the jackpot. Such a huge rise and fall, even for Roland Su who had profound martial arts. He felt as though he was in a dream. He laid paralyzed on the ground, without even the strength to move a finger. Ben Sin suddenly spoke out. Xiao Yu, Xiao Yi. No. Ben Sun was the first to recover from the shock. He did not have anything in his heart, and only wanted to bring the two young ladies to see the world, but he never expected to witness such a shocking battle. Seeing Lu Tianwen getting bigger and bigger, a Maori roared in his heart, all of the muscles in his body exploded out. He dragged the broad guillotine blade by his side, and fiercely slashed upwards. Clang, clang, clang. A terrifying large blade slashed onto the Thunder Wind spear. The astonishing power caused Lu Tianwen's palm to heat up. He almost lost control of the spear, and it flew out of his hands. How can Ghost Face Mask still have strength left? This blade was obviously the technique that Ghost Face Mask had used previously. When the light aura blossomed from the spear tip, Lu Tianwen's vision turned white, but his consciousness immediately woke up. Impossible! The group of people who were spectating from afar heard the cheers from Echo Hill Castle. All of their expressions were filled with shock and disbelief. Impossible! How could Lu Tianwen's technique be broken? Suyi looked as though he was about to go crazy. Out of the few of them, he was the strongest, and thus the impact he received was the strongest. The rest of them were not any better than him. They definitely think that it's fake news. Ben Sin, who was in a good mood, said something cold and humorous. A Maori who was the first to slash borrowed the rebound force from the spear body and landed back at the door. Seeing his brothers pouncing towards Lu Tianwen like a tide, he laughed. His face that was covered in blood revealed his eerie white teeth. Executing the heavens! The continuous slashes brought forth the sound of the wind, slashing onto his spear like a torrential storm, causing his body to tremble like a sieve. His arm was so sore that it was almost numb. He didn't dare to move an inch. Right now, he was relying on this breath to force himself to hold on. If he made the slightest movement, this breath would leak, and that would be the end of him. Lu Tianwen's eyes were filled with fear. A dark red line of blood flowed along the center of his body, and split his body into two. Blood spurted out. The fear in Lu Tianwen's eyes became denser and denser. It could be said that Ben Sun had used the trump card in his hands to its limit, causing the others to look at him in a different light. Before they could react, the piercing white light and the sound of the wind assaulted their faces. All of you do not need to return to the residence, Ben Sun said. Miss Han has suffered in Muur for so many days, and Miss has always felt guilty. All of you will go to Echo Hill Castle now, and follow Miss Han from now on, and be her assistants. Serve Miss Han like how you serve Mississippi. Roland Su also stood up. I will go as well. Lu Tianwen's technique was the strongest technique of his grade. How could it be broken? The Tiopiot family is truly foolish. Victor suddenly said, What do you guys think if we were to ambush the Qin family at this time? Lu Tianwen, who was bitterly holding on, in his blurry vision, a bright red figure suddenly rushed in front of him like an enraged bull. Su Yi suddenly laughed. I am truly curious, when this news spreads back to the Liu family, to Qin Jin's ears, what kind of expression will they have? Once Ghost Face Mask gathered the Null Division, he would definitely sweep through the Sin domain, and no one would be able to stop him. He dragged the broad guillotine blade and started to run, facing the stone castle's door, facing the sky outside, facing the light of battle, facing the young man's dreams and beliefs. He ran with all his might, listening to the wind whistling past his ears, smelling the smell of blood, the wounds all over his body burning. Every step he took was a roar to the world. Lu Tianwen's berserk performance made her understand that the situation was hopeless, and even she did not believe that Ghost Face Mask could hold on. He stared blankly at the sky. His face was filled with disbelief. The others regained their senses. They did not expect for Ben Sen to be the first to attack, and scolded in their hearts, Black Devil looks like a boorish man, but he's smarter than a ghost. He brought his juniors to broaden their horizons, and now he gave the steel guards to Han Bingning. It was truly a powerful move. Amauri was unable to restrain himself, and flew out. The blade had exhausted his last bit of strength. He rolled along the hill like a rock, and only stopped when he was blocked by a piece of rock. A sword concept soared into the sky, and in the next moment, an ice mountain-like figure appeared like lightning, grabbing onto Tang Tian. It was actually Han Bingning, who had just come out of closed-door training. Although Ghost Face Mask had ganged up on Lu Tianwen, but with his strength, even if he was not as strong as Lu Tianwen, the difference was extremely small. Furthermore, the fighting strength that the Null Division prisoners had displayed caused everyone to be shocked. After a long while, the sky shook with cheers. Almost subconsciously, Lu Tianwen placed the Thunder Wind Spear in front of his chest. Chapter 738. Sima Xiangshan was shocked, but he was extremely shrewd, and maintained a fake smile on his face. Could it be that Scorpio King has some news? Tang Tian was not immersed in the joy of victory. He had too many realizations that needed to be sorted out. At the last moment, he had gained enlightenment on the sacrificial execution, and the demonic figure appeared in his body, causing the might of his fist to increase. With regards to things related to battles, Tang Tian had always had an extremely sharp intuition. He had a faint feeling that the demonic figure that was born from the heavy demonic execution was much more valuable than the heavy demonic execution. Save ourselves. Sima Xiangshan waved his hands at Sima Xiao and said sinisterly, We are all boorish people and are not proficient in such things. We never expected to meet you. You are an expert. Help us plan something. The more Sima Xiangshan heard, the more shocked he became. He is truly sinister. He had to admit that it was a brilliant plan. The entire plan was flawless. Sima Xiao had borrowed the power of others to sow dissension, and used it to the extreme. Sima Xiangshan believed that as long as the plan was carried out, Bright Light City would descend into chaos. No one would have thought that the ones plotting in the dark would actually be the two of them. They were a group of fanatical fighters. The pitiful Ping Xiaoshan had started a large-scale special training. It was a true large-scale special training. Other than Tang Tian, all the Null Division members were crying piteously for food. The two of them had the difference between heaven and earth. If not for Sima Xiangshan having the same surname as him, he would not even pay attention to such a small figure. This unique law did not require him to use the power of the physique, but it was unable to materialize, and was unable to project power to him. Upon enlightenment, it became a law surface, and was like a formless net that floated around Niechio's body. Bright Light City. Qin Zhen sent the guests off with a smile. He had a tall stature with a skinny face and a stern gaze, but when he smiled, it made people feel as though they were bathing in the spring wind. Everyone knew that time was precious, and no one wasted it. Battles were the same as life. They had to fight against time, fight against life and death, fight against the enemy, fight against yourself. Maybe you will never truly win, but if you do not fight, you will not even have the qualifications to call yourself a loser. Because only those who lose in battle are losers. What was even more surprising was that his mental state had a breakthrough. His aura had become even more stable, and his originally wild temperament had actually become restrained and steady. Because of the breakthrough in his mental state, the third move of the heavy demonic execution, a devil eye slash, was surprisingly easy for him to learn. Thinking of this, a cold smile appeared on Qin Zhen's face. The Null Division prisoners were famous for being arrogant and untamed, and up till now, other than a few who voluntarily surrendered to them, no one else had been tamed. Since we want to play, then let's play bigger. Sima Xiao laughed. His smile was as harmless as ever, and spoke of his plan. Qin Zizhen was dead, the archer unit was destroyed, Wei Han and Mu Zhe were dead. The Shui family had sided with Ghost Face Mask and escaped to Echo Hill Castle. All of these news caused his face to become extremely gloomy. Ghost Face Mask's strength far exceeded his expectations. Sima Xiao chuckled. You think that Tang Tian will die? Your danger has never been your martial strength. Sima Xiangshan laughed sinisterly. Sima Xiao had borrowed the power of the clan union to ascend to the Scorpio King's position, and with his schemes, Sima Xiangshan knew the disparity between him and the other party. He knew that it was time for him to perform. If he was not of any use and had no value, he even suspected that Sima Xiangshan would kill him. Sima Xiao laughed. You don't have to test me. I have your information. You, Amauri, Han Bingning and Liang Qiu, all of you came out from Star Wind City with Tang Tian. Other people might betray Tang Tian, but the few of you will never do so. He licked his lips. This period of time was extremely important to them. As long as they could digest it, their overall strength would have a qualitative leap. But he was a realistic person, and knew that if he were to fuss about such small details, and act pretentious, it would be seeking his own death. As an ambitious and ruthless person, his ability to judge the situation was always more outstanding than ordinary people. Sima Xiao laughed. He knew that his words had an effect. Just at that moment there was a commotion outside. How can the Scorpio King who can reach such a stage be an ordinary person? He quickly found the relevant information on Sima Xiangshan. Since Lu Tian had made a move, he could relax and focus on communicating with the other families. The Lu family did not mind him buying the Null Division prisoners from the other families in Galloping Horse City. If not, he would not have the chance. He also knew that the Lu family's focus was on the Shui residence, and he knew what the Lu family saw in the Shui residence. But after so many years, he had never found out the secret from the Shui residence, so he might as well sell it to the Lu family. Who won't die? Sima Xiangshan declined to comment. Sima Xiangshan scoffed. That's right, seems like having the same surname has some advantages. To be able to let Scorpio King remember me, it is truly an honor. The Qin family had suffered heavy losses, and if not for the Lu family sending out Lu Tianwen, Qin Zhen would have long returned to Purple Cuckoo City. Crazy Tang is not dead, Sima Xiangshan suddenly said. I never thought that we would meet in such a manner. Sima Xiao was filled with emotions. He revealed a look of contemplation. I remember, you are called Sima Xiangshan? At that time. That price is not bad, and can even attract the Lu family's attention. Sima Xiangshan squinted his eyes. Bright Light City had 700 Null Division members. Sima Xiao knew that he was ultimately not a person of the Ursa Major constellation, and it would be extremely difficult to gain their trust, and the more he beat around the bush, the harder it would be for them to trust him. He directly revealed his cards. I am the Scorpio King, and do not wish to stay in this godforsaken place to be a servant. On this point we both agree. I never thought that I would be able to break out of Sin Domain by myself. Without Tang Tian, none of us will be able to leave this place. And I have lost all of my strength. What threat do I pose to you all? And the other person who had gained the most was Niechio. His senses far surpassed ordinary people, and even under Lu Tianwen's astonishing pressure, he was still able to observe the entire place like a spiderweb. His final roar caused him to suffer internal injuries, but it also caused his mental state to undergo a qualitative change. What no one expected was that he had gained enlightenment on a law, an extremely unique law, yin-yang formation. Han Bingning needed time to restrain the sword concept that she had released, and although she had revealed her abilities, she was still far from being able to control it. But the other families were not fools. Everyone knew the value of the null division prisoners, and without paying the price, it was impossible to buy them. Every negotiation was extremely difficult, but Qin Zhen still had a huge harvest. Clang clang, Qin Zhen's face turned pale white, the teacup in his hand fell to the ground. He had successfully negotiated with the three families, although he had to pay a price, and almost emptied out the Qin family's wealth, but to Qin Zhen it was worth it. Sima Xiao did not know whether to laugh or cry. It had been a long time since someone dared to speak to him in such a frivolous tone. The blood in Amaury's body had even seeped out from his skin, showing how much burden he was enduring. His body was extremely tyrannical, and the burden was like the fiercest furnace fire, fiercely tempering his body. His tiny null flames had also completely transformed into null flames, igniting his primordial fire origin. Sima Xiao could not help but size up the gloomy man in front of him. To be able to speak so confidently in front of him without revealing anything. He was not famous, but he was not to be underestimated. I never thought that any one of Tang Tian's subordinates would be so powerful. Sima Xiangshan glanced at him. I can't tell you that. Before he could finish, he fell to the ground. His face was as white as paper, and he was no longer breathing. Sima Xiao was not angry, but continued to pursue. What plans do you guys have? Nothing much. Sima Xiangshan said sinisterly. A wise man submits to circumstances. He had to seize the time. If the Lu family went back on their words, he would not be able to buy the null division prisoners from the other families, and that was the reason why he had not returned yet. Everyone thought that the Qin family did not have the ability to digest the null division prisoners, and would only make them explode. When he returned, the smile on his face disappeared, and all the servants and maids around him did not dare to breathe. More importantly, Nie Qiu saw hope in the formation, and to a military general, there was nothing that could make him more ecstatic. Zhong Jingyan Mei with his tattered clothes and body full of injuries stumbled in. Master, the four families have joined hands to attack. There was an absolute difference between a veteran and a new recruit. Furthermore, after going through such a terrifying and difficult life and death battle, everyone's mental state had undergone an earth-shattering change. Sima Xiao was surprised. How can there be a Scorpio King now? We are just lowly prisoners. I am very curious, how did you gain the trust of the Mo family? And all of this required him to calm down and comprehend. So the first thing Tang Tian did when he woke up was to give the order to close down Echo Hill Castle. In this period of time, he had gained the trust of the Li family, and was extremely familiar with the situation in Bright Light City. He was extremely familiar with how to fish in troubled waters, and was extremely proficient in it. If he was alone, it would be difficult for him, but with Sima Xiangshan's cooperation, the situation would be completely different. The Li family behind him, and the Mo family behind Sima Xiangshan, were the top families in Bright Light City. Sima Xiao was roused. Of course, I never thought that he would die so easily. Where is he now? Nie Qiu's senses were originally extremely sharp, and had become even more terrifying. Many people were secretly laughing at him, thinking that he would not be able to digest the null division prisoners even though he was frantically buying them. It was not only him, everyone in the null division had benefited greatly from the battle. Sima Xiangshan squinted his eyes, his heart trembled. He never thought that a small figure like him would actually be so well understood by Sima Xiao, but his expression did not change. This is not a betrayal. Who knows if he is already dead? I can't possibly be buried with him. Without knowing if he is alive or dead, you are already relying on him, aren't you being too anxious? Sima Xiao spoke with a trace of ridicule, and suddenly asked, What rumors did you hear? The other members of the Null Division had also received different degrees of tempering, none of them retreated, and faced the light aura to fight to the death, allowing them to improve greatly. In the past, the Null Division was just an experimental unit, and had never experienced a true battle. No one knew that he had special methods to make the prisoners obedient, and he was not worried about taming them. He did not even touch any of the prisoners. He wanted to give everyone a false impression that he was gambling, a gamble that did not care about the consequences. Only by doing that would others think that he was a fool, and sell the prisoners to him. Chapter 739. A look of ridicule surfaced on Lu Xingxiang's face. He had seen Qin Zhen jumping up and down for the past few days. He could tell with one look that Qin Zhen was ambitious. Although he did not stop Qin Zhen, but he looked down on him. The Qin family's foundation was too lacking compared to the Lu family, and the Lu family would not be so flamboyant, but Qin Zhen was overestimating himself. Pieces of transparent sword aura exuded a piercingly cold chill, and the chill continued to surge in the room. Gradually, the sword auras started to crumble. The large sword auras turned into small sword auras, which then became the size of a fingernail, and continued to crumble, until they became as fine as sand. Tang Tian once again congealed the demon figure, but this time, he placed all of his attention on the dark blue mark on his heart. The dark blue mark flashed with a bewitching blue light, and the demon figure shattered. The Qin family was ambushed? That dark blue nomological brand was actually able to burrow into his body when he punched. Because it had been fine previously, other than the dark blue imprint on Tang Tian's heart, there were no other effects, so Tang Tian did not mind it. Although Lu Tianwen's killing intent was too heavy, but with his strength, the number of people who could kill him could be counted with one's fingers. Furthermore, he had the Lu family as his backing. The families of the Purple Cuckoo City dared to ambush the Qin family, but would they dare to make a move on the Lu family? It was not only a Maori who wanted to learn, all of the Null Division members wanted to learn. He then thought about Qin Zizhen's arrow when they were rushing out of the city gate. Tang Tian, who did not believe it, tried again and again, but the demon figure would shatter every time. Lu Xingxiang shook his head, and threw the matter to the back of his mind. If not for his enlightenment on the demon figure, Tang Tian's fist would not have been able to continue. Different from the others who were advancing smoothly, Tang Tian met with trouble. The closer it was to him, the more stable the light spot became, and the more congealed the gray lines. The ice became thicker, and the pain increased, as though it was being tortured. He adjusted the origin force in his body, and struck the dark blue imprint. At the start, the imprint did not have any changes, and was as harmless as usual. But when Tang Tian continued to increase his origin force, the imprint started to change. This was the foundation. This was also the reason why Lu Xingxiang did not think much of Qin Zhen. He felt that Qin Zhen's ambition surpassed his own strength. Han Bingning did not make a sound. Her whole body was trembling. She kept her lips tightly shut and did not make a sound. During the battle with Lu Tianwen, she was recuperating and in closed-door training, and was unable to make it in time, causing her to be extremely vexed. Tang Tian's invention, the air shield, did not require the use of any laws or energy, but only required sufficient physical strength. Learning the air shield meant that they would be able to fly in the sky. This was very important to them, and it could also make them more agile. Just a moment ago, Tang Tian felt a wisp of extreme energy enter Tang Tian's heart from the patch. Tang Tian felt as if he had been struck by a heavy blow, and the source energy in his body became chaotic. After adjusting his breathing for more than 10 minutes, Tang Tian finally recovered. He began to grope. Yes. The butler smiled. As a military general from Heaven's Road, Niechio's control aura was extremely outstanding. although he could not see, but he was extremely sensitive to the undulations of energy, and that allowed him to be extremely meticulous in his control aura. Humph, who knows where he ran off to? Lu Xingxiang said unhappily. He's not even working properly. Just that, why didn't the demon figure that I condensed last time shatter? Lu Xingxiang had doted on his younger brother since young. He was different from Lu Xingxiang, who was mature. Lu Tianwen had always been arrogant and untamed since young. His actions were preposterous, and if he did not agree with him, he would start a fight, and had stirred up a lot of trouble. Although Lu Tianwen was not very obedient, but his talent was extremely high. Lu Xingxiang had said more than once that if not for Heaven's Inquisition being too late, he would definitely not be ranked 39th on the list of powerhouses. The powerful demon figure was actually affected, causing Tang Tian to pay attention to the inky blue law imprint. It lit up with a faint blue light, and on its heart was a glowing blue patch, which made it look extremely strange. There was no need to doubt the power of the demon figure, and Tang Tian guessed that the final slash of the heavy demonic execution, demonic phaseless execution, should be related to the demon figure. With the previous experience, Tang Tian quickly congealed the demon figure, but the demon figure that was just formed was actually like a fragile ceramic statue, and shattered. On the nearest light spot, there was a null division member who was carefully sensing the undulations coming from the Yin threads. It was the undulations of laws, and Nie Qiu realized that the Yin threads were extremely sensitive to the undulations of laws. Because of the null division member's tiny null flames, they were able to grasp the law threads very quickly. Han Bingning sat cross-legged in the quiet room. The air in the room was extremely cold. The ground and all four walls were covered in frost. Around Han Bingning, there were many sword concepts that formed a vortex that revolved around her. In truth, killing Lu Tianwen was a fluke that could not be replicated. If they were to do it again, the probability of them failing far exceeded the probability of them winning. The butler did not reply, as he was not in a position to do so. A look of ruthlessness flashed past Tang Tian's eyes. Even if he had to carve out a piece of flesh from his heart, he wanted to remove the plaque. As for the null division members, they were currently using their laws to temper their bodies. As long as they had enough power of the physique, they could learn the second technique of the heavy demonic execution. After trying out the power of the first technique, everyone was filled with anticipation for the second technique. The fine ice grains wrapped around Han Bingning's body, slowly squirming. Her sword was released unexpectedly, and was difficult to control, so she decided to use the sword concept to temper her body. Everyone could clearly feel the improvement in their strength, and that made them even more excited. Cooperating with Nie Qiu, and not affecting their training, they naturally let him do as he pleased. In the field, the null division members were all seated cross-legged, all of their bodies releasing tiny null flames. Han Bingning endured the pain without making a sound. The process of tempering her body was always accompanied by pain. Not only did she not stop, she continued to release her sword concepts. The shattered sword concepts were added into the ice grains. Lu Xingxiang had an ordinary appearance, like an old farmer, and the clothes he wore were extremely simple. Ever since he ascended to the position of patriarch, the Lu family's frugality immediately flourished, and in the entire family, only Lu Tianwen continued to be extravagant, causing Lu Xingxiang to be helpless. The demonic figure appeared once again, but very quickly it shattered. Whirlpool Sword Storm. The ice-cold and dense sword concepts slowly but firmly tempered her flesh and her willpower, but she was fearless. The blue light became brighter and brighter, and just as the blue light was about to waver, Tang Tian suddenly groaned, his face pale white. Furthermore, he needed to absorb a certain amount of life origin essence every day. Absorbing life origin essence was easy, but digesting it was not so easy. As long as he continued to brandish his broad guillotine blade, he would continue to train in the heavy demonic execution. The battle had allowed them to feel the cruelty of battles, but it also gave them hope, even if they were not as strong as Lu Tianwen, but their attacks were still effective, they were not ants. Inside the Echo Hill Castle, there was no longer any joy of victory, everyone was extremely nervous and busy. Even after killing Lu Tianwen, they were still far from victory. Qin Zhen and Lu Xingxiang, the two martial artists on the list of powerhouses, caused everyone to feel a heavy pressure. She wanted to ignite her primordial fire origin. Tang Tian thought that he had done something wrong, and after adjusting his breathing, he once again did the same thing. Bang! The dazzling blue light almost shot out of his body, causing Tang Tian's mind to tremble. Compared to Tang Tian, the demonic execution was extremely important, and Tang Tian was unable to tolerate the existence of such a terrifying hidden danger in his body. Tang Tian no longer had any thoughts of luck. The demonic execution was extremely sinister, and if he did not get rid of it, there would be endless troubles in the future. He took a deep breath, and started to adjust the origin force in his body, and unceasingly struck the patch. A Maori who had ignited his primordial fire origin meant that he had entered a higher realm, but it also brought with it problems. He needed to adapt to a brand new body, and the usage of origin force and the power of the physique were vastly different. Not yet. The butler laughed. Heavy demonic execution and air shield, that was the basic configuration. In the center, Niechio sat cross-legged. In his empty vision, there were many gray lines and many bright spots. The gray lines represented yin, while the bright spots represented yang. Until now. Even so, the two list of powerhouses martial artists of the Lu family were enough to look down on everyone. Other than that, he still needed to train in the air shield. Is there any news from Heaven's Inquisition? Lu Xingxiang asked casually. She also knew that if she was not strong enough, even if she could participate in the battle, she would only be a burden. Thinking about how the one to end Lu Tianwen was actually a Maori, the barbaric bull, she became even more unresigned. Now, what exactly is the ink blue law imprint? Tang Tian was extremely curious. To be able to interfere with the demonic figure's laws, its grade was definitely not low. Tang Tian thought about it, but there was no result, so Tang Tian decided to use the simplest method to test it out. The surging origin force in his body was like a torrent, crashing into the patch. Yes, it is said that the other four families of the Purple Cuckoo City joined hands and suddenly launched an attack on the Qin family, and the Qin family was completely destroyed. The butler reported respectfully. Zhong Zhengyan may manage to escape, but was heavily injured when he saw Qin Zhen. He only said one sentence before dying. He started to adjust his breathing, allowing himself to enter his optimal state. In this battle, he had also reaped huge reward. Although the Godfist was not completed, but it was not far from completion. The most important thing was that he had gained enlightenment on the demonic figure from the sacrificial execution. The undulations of the yin lines immediately made him think about the control aura. Qin Zhen is now alone. Lu Xingxiang's words carried a trace of schadenfreude. Only by becoming stronger can I fight alongside Tang Tian. The bone-piercing cold intent and the biting cold sword concept were like countless of small knives slicing across. Lu Xingxiang was not worried about Lu Tianwen's safety, nor was he worried about whether the Shui family would succeed. After an hour, he opened his eyes and took a deep breath. The origin force in his entire body started to revolve. He did not immediately attack the patch, but allowed the origin force to accumulate in his body. The origin force surged, more and more, and close to 80% of the origin force in Tang Tian's body was all gathered by him. At that moment, everyone was extremely excited, and started to train frantically. Tang Tian felt that he was not in the wrong. He calmed himself down and tried a few more times, and finally found the reason. The thing that destroyed the demonic figure was actually the ink blue patch at his heart. Chapter 740. The blue light shot out from Tang Tian's body, His blood vessels, muscles, bones, all of them were translucent and could be seen clearly. More importantly, the demon's 6 seals was practically made for Tang Tian, who was proficient in close combat. Tang Tian suddenly thought about the fist that he used to fight against Lu Tianwen, but the demon figure did not shatter. Tang Tian heaved a sigh of relief. As long as it was a law, it would be easy. Releasing the light aura from his hands, Tang Tian carefully maintained the demon figure, and what made him heave a sigh of relief was that the demon figure did not shatter. The blue flames and the sound mist, in an environment with origin force, was actually able to shatter the demon figure, showing that its grade was definitely not low. Laws. His current life was filled with danger, and he could die any time, but it was still intense and fulfilling. And Tang Tian did not have any suspicions towards him because he was from the Leo constellation, but instead, he trusted him, which was the respect and trust that a military general yearned for the most. Nie Qiu raised his head. He was extremely shocked. What made Tang Tian puzzled was that the blue flames that contained the mist gave him a strange feeling. Tang Tian could sense an aura similar to the demon figure from them. Suddenly, he sensed something, and turned to look at the place where Han Bingning was in closed-door training. He rejoiced in his heart, rejoicing at his choice. The whispering song was faintly discernible, causing the world around Tang Tian to sway along with the song. The light aura converging on Tang Tian's right fist became even more intense. It was extremely dazzling. The surging origin force continued to be consumed. Until the origin force was completely exhausted, Tang Tian continued to use his fist. Every time he fought, his strength would become stronger. A gentle whispering song quietly came out from the dazzling blue light, causing Tang Tian's expression to become absent-minded. After experiencing the initial difficulty, Tang Tian finally sensed a trace of law aura. The trace of law aura was extremely concealed, hidden within the blue light and the song. If not for Tang Tian being on high alert, and being extremely focused, he would not have sensed it. Tang Tian's heart sank. His Godfist was able to attract the law threads in the surrounding space, but was actually unable to attract the strand of law. A wisp of demonic blue flame quietly burned within Tang Tian's body. Inside the transparent blue flame, there was a wisp of mist that gathered and scattered. The song came from that wisp of mist. But at that moment it was abnormally quiet, trembling in front of the heavenly demon form. But once he entered the state of battle, the simple and unadorned Tang Tian seemed to have become a different person. He had an extraordinarily sharp intuition towards battle, an almost obsessive pursuit of victory, and a will that was stronger than steel. No matter how strong his opponent was, he was filled with fearlessness and would never retreat. Gaining enlightenment in battle was as common as eating a meal. The heavenly demon avatar returned to its calm state. His potential seemed to be endless. No matter how much danger he faced, no matter how powerful his enemies were, it was only to let the potential buried deep within his body see the light of day again. Almost as soon as Tang Tian willed it, the sky demon form's arm suddenly reached out to the blue flames, as if it was picking up a flower. Tang Tian's mind shook. The gigantic heavenly demon form surfaced behind him. Compared to the previous time, the heavenly demon form was even more congealed. It had 3 heads and 6 arms. Other than the face being blurry, the 6 arms were extremely clear. Tang Tian's mind shook. Could it be that the red-eyed golem has some sort of relationship with the heavenly demon form? He was extremely sensitive to auras. The master's training room released an astonishing aura, which was exactly the same as the battle with Lu Tianwen. He initially thought that the master was practicing his fist again, but he never expected that after a few breaths of time, the vast aura would suddenly change, as though a sea of mist was changing unpredictably. Tang Tian forced himself to calm down. The dazzling blue light in his body caused him to be unable to see anything. He closed his eyes and calmed down. The song would disappear and reappear, and in the next moment, Tang Tian's nose was dripping with perspiration. The song was extremely weird, as though it could enter one's heart, and no matter how careful Tang Tian was, there was no effect. The golem's 5 gestures, no, more accurately, it should be called the heavenly demon's 6 seals. Tang Tian's attention landed on the heavenly demon form's palms. The 6 palms all formed different hand seals. It was not that he had become Tang Tian's subordinate, but he had a high opinion of his superior. If one looked at him normally, Tang Tian would not be able to see anything special about him. He would be ordinary and not outstanding at all, other than being diligent and able to make people sigh in admiration, but that was all. Nie Qiu could not help but laugh bitterly. In the past, when he was in Leo constellation, his group of colleagues loved to research on the general situation of Heaven's Road, and Ursa Major constellation's Tang Tian naturally became everyone's research target. The godlike young lad was a miracle. He was like an undying cockroach. Every time he met danger, not only would he be able to turn danger into safety, he would often borrow the momentum to improve. The blue flames entered the heavenly demon form's fingers and disappeared. In the blink of the eye, the heavenly demon form's hands had 2 objects. One was a blue flame that slowly floated, the other was a strand of mist. Like a swordfish, it danced along the hand seals. Nie Qiu's own talent was outstanding, although he was born blind, but he was still able to distinguish himself from the other Leo constellation. His talent was unquestionable. Since young, he had been in the circle of geniuses, and the outstanding geniuses around him would sometimes cause people to feel a sense of defeat. What laws are these? Tang Tian was enlightened. Such strange laws required the help of origin force. Without origin force, it was like a rootless duckweed and was completely useless. In the end, everyone came up with 2 conclusions. One was that he was extremely scheming, and was proficient in borrowing power to fight, and the other was that Tang Tian had outstanding talent. The heavenly demon's 6 seals, it was extremely profound and profound, it was extremely profound. His state of mind was completely attracted by it, and he was immersed in it. Nie Qiu slowly understood that Tang Tian was completely immersed in battle. It was something he had never seen before. Tang Tian shook his head. He did not want to think about it. The world was huge, there were all sorts of strange things, and it was normal for there to be techniques that he did not know. Although the heavenly demon's 6 seals and the heavy demonic execution had the same origin, but they were completely different. The heavy demonic execution's power was extremely ferocious, but its variations were concise, and the most important thing was its imposing manner. The heavenly demon's 6 seals had endless variations, and was able to make up for the weakness of the heavy demonic execution. Although the zero-energy body allowed him to be extremely close to laws, but in terms of enlightenment on laws, it was difficult for him. Other than his comprehension on spatial law threads, he did not have any clue on law surfaces. The heavenly demon form was comprehended by Tang Tian from the heavy demonic execution, and if one were to say that the incomplete Godfist was the highest grade martial technique that Tang Tian had comprehended, then the heavenly demon form would definitely be ranked second. Furthermore, it had immense potential, and Tang Tian suspected that after gaining enlightenment on the demonic formless, its might would definitely not be weaker than the Godfist. But Nie Qiu felt that none of them could compare to Tang Tian. Nie Qiu laughed bitterly once again, following beside Tang Tian. The pressure was everywhere. Tang Tian would never rush anyone, but no one was willing to see the distance between themselves and others grow, even if the person was their superior. Tang Tian hardened his heart and ignored the singing. The singing gradually started, from a whisper to a clear and resonant voice, causing Tang Tian's world to spin and distort. Tang Tian was like a calm and experienced hunter, unmoved. Nie Qiu's heart was filled with emotions. Only when he got closer did he realize that Tang Tian was very different from what the rumors said. And for such a simple and honest person to be able to obtain the hearts of so many people, it made him even more precious. Suddenly, he thought about it. Golem 5 techniques. Bang! Tang Tian finally saw the strand of law clearly. Did Master gain new enlightenment? Could it be? Tang Tian was startled. An indescribable enlightenment flowed through his heart. The blue flames were actually two things, the blue flames that were separated from the mist. The aura made Tang Tian think of the blue sea. Could it be something born from the blue sea? And the spirited sound mist was even more complicated, and was able to confuse people's minds. But he quickly reacted, and was shocked to realize that the blood and flesh in his body were actually out of control. They were abnormally lively. The temperature of his blood was rapidly rising, and was throbbing with a strange rhythm. Following such a superior is not easy for me. This thing was most proficient in confusing people's minds. With Qin Zizhen's strength, upon contact, he would definitely lose himself in the sound mist and blue flames. Tang Tian's heart was moved. Not only did he not retract his fist, he instead activated the origin force in his body even more frantically. This should be the reason why such an outstanding person is willing to work for me. He matched the hand seals one by one, and realized that 5 of the hand seals were extremely similar to the Golem 5 styles, but there were some differences. After comparing them, Tang Tian understood that the Golem 5 styles were most likely derived from the heavenly demon figure. It was highly possible that one of the forms had been lost in the inheritance process, and although the other 5 forms were passed down, there were some deviations, and were not as perfect as the true heavenly demon figure. In the future, his enemies would only become stronger and stronger, and relying on law threads to fight would only be a joke. Other than the Godfist, Tang Tian's only other attack method was the heavy demonic execution. But it is a pity that I do not know what it can use. If not, I will definitely help it obtain it. Could it be that Qin Zizhen has some special technique? Tang Tian immediately stood up and unleashed his fist stance, his face gloomy. He slowly unleashed his fist stance, and countless of law threads converged on his fist. But what he did not expect was that the strange law hidden in the blue light was actually not affected at all. Tang Tian felt that the hand seals were somewhat familiar. He frowned and thought hard, where have I seen them before? He once again placed his attention back on the heavenly demon figure. The heavenly demon figure had blue flames on one hand and sound mist on the other, but the other 4 arms were empty, which was an eyesore. Tang Tian thought, could it be that the 4 arms can absorb laws and use them? The sound mist and blue flames were actually able to prevent the heavenly demon figure from forming, and its grade was definitely not much lower than the heavenly demon figure. When he was on Phylan's star, Tang Tian had obtained a red-eyed golem, and from it, he had gained enlightenment on 5 mystical hand forms: the grasping flower form, weeping sword form, angry fist form, ethereal form, and imposing form. The Golem 5 form hand seals were extremely similar to the heavenly demon figure's hand seals. After following Tang Tian for a period of time, Niechio slowly understood him. He knew that the first point was completely ridiculous. Tang Tian's subordinates did not lack people with outstanding intelligence, but he himself would definitely be a burden to everyone. But towards the second point, Niechio felt that they had underestimated the master. Outstanding talent? A godlike young lad with a godlike talent. To chase after that figure, you have to continue to work hard and continue to push yourself. Thinking back to the time when he was in Leo constellation, Niechio then realized how lazy he had been. Chapter 741. This swift and decisive action and spontaneous silence itself contained a powerful and solemn power, causing Su Yi and the rest to feel suffocated. They did not understand what an army was, but the quiet and well-trained scene in front of them gave them a huge shock. Tang Tian, who had just come out of closed-door training, upon hearing Ming Zhu's report, he was dumbstruck, and immediately became excited. He was just thinking about how to save the Null Division from the Qin family, but never thought that Su Yi and the rest would actually succeed. Ming Zhu could not help but turn to look at Ghost Face Mask. Su Yi and the rest who were welcoming Tang Tian at the door were all extremely shocked. Han Bingning and Amauri brought the rest and left. they had to seize the time. Seeing the two groups of people leaving in an orderly manner, everyone became quiet. It was this man who changed everything. The art of armies had long been lost in the Sin domain. The current Sin domain was extremely unfamiliar with what an army was. But Su Yi and Victor were from families that had existed for a long time, although they were unfamiliar with armies, but they knew what was good for them. They were unable to measure Ghost Face Mask's depth, but they could sense the changes in the others. When Su Zhong saw Han Bingning, he could not believe his own eyes. When did a swordsman ignite his primordial fire origin? A swordsman that ignited his primordial fire origin, to this. 10 minutes later, two neat square formations appeared in front of everyone. Immediately, Amauri and Han Bingning walked into the field, and split everyone into two groups, each leading one group. The two of them were not embarrassed at all, and did not pass on the responsibility. The two of them immediately ordered their members to do a self-examination, and then formed the groups. But the group in front of them did not even question them, they were quiet, and their movements were clean and efficient. Maybe this group of people can truly change the Sin domain. The current null division strength had increased by leaps and bounds. Amauri rushed in excitedly, patting everyone. Han Bingning, who was as cold as an ice mountain, was also extremely excited at the moment. The rest also rushed in and helped their comrades remove the light needles from their bodies. No one would have thought that Ghost Face Mask would actually go into closed-door training at such a crucial moment. Victor waved his hands with an innocent look. Although I was the one who came up with the idea, but everyone agreed. Besides, if we fail, will my family be spared? You won't be able to escape Qin Zhen's evil hands either. Another 2 minutes later, the two of them led their subordinates to choose their encampments. Everyone's spirits were lifted, and the boulder on their chests was completely lifted. For a moment, everyone felt a little exhausted. The feeling of a powerhouse on the list of combat power coming back at any time was like a blade on their back. That kind of invisible pressure made it hard for them to breathe. These days, they couldn't eat or sleep in peace. If Qin Zhen came back, the four clans would not be able to resist, and the fate of the four clans would be the same as the Qin clan. They would be uprooted, and their entire clans would be annihilated. Without any hesitation, he requested for group training. Seeing the respectful smiles on Su Yi and the rest, Ming Zhu felt even more complicated. She had never thought that such a day would come, and she believed that they had never thought that such a day would come. When Ben Sun fought with Ghost Face Mask for the first time, he never thought that there would be a day where I would welcome him outside the city. At that time, when Su Yi and the rest were talking about Ghost Face Mask, they had never thought that there would be a day where they would become his subordinate. The Qin family was completely destroyed by them, and the Null Division prisoners were obtained, so they immediately sent people to the Echo Hill Castle and requested for Ghost Face Mask to enter Purple Cuckoo City. The Qin family had already been uprooted, the four families had sided with Ghost Face Mask, and the Purple Cuckoo City had truly changed masters. "Where is he?" Tang Tian asked without hesitation. Although he was a bit rash, Su rather liked people with such a genuine temperament. Nie Chio's yin-yang formation was already at the initial stage, and his formation was already in its embryonic form. As for the Null Division members, all of them were brimming with energy and were extremely ferocious. Amauri's transformation similarly left Su shocked. She had a deep impression of this big guy among the prisoners. On one hand, it was because Amauri seemed to be the leader of this group of people. On the other hand, it was also because of his straightforward personality. Once his companions were bullied, he would be the first to rush up. Compared to the elites they had seen before, although in terms of individual strength, they were much stronger than this group of people. But they were too familiar with the scene of people huddling together, fighting and arguing with each other were extremely normal, and it was good enough that they did not open their mouths to find fault with them. If they wanted to move them, they had to give them a reason, and they had to give them money. The Su family had 92 people, adding the 65 people under Tang Tian, they had a total of 626 people. The huge change in Purple Cuckoo City also shocked everyone. The first to react was naturally Nie Chio. He immediately understood that something had happened, and had a rough estimation of the situation. But what they did not expect was that the Echo Hill Castle's doors were tightly shut, and even after their men shouted for half a day, no one opened the door for them. Just that Xue Mingzhu shouted once on the stone wall, saying that Master Ghost Face Mask was in closed-door training, and before he comes out, he will not open the castle. Everyone became quiet. They knew what Ben Sun meant when he said to be prepared. He did not care about the thoughts of the families, as long as he could save his brothers, even if they wanted to use him, he did not care. Without Ghost Face Mask's protection, the four of them did not have any confidence in fighting against Qin Jun. In the past, they had never seen any experts on the list of powerhouses, although they felt that Qin Jun was stronger than them, but they did not have any idea. The 60-odd people all had their auras linked together, as though they were one. The situation immediately became strange. Qin Jun was definitely on his way to Purple Cuckoo City, and if Ghost Face Mask entered Purple Cuckoo City, they did not need to worry about their safety. If Ghost Face Mask could kill Lu Tianwen, then Qin Jun would naturally not be a problem. Even the rhythm of their breathing was completely synchronized. If they closed their eyes, they would mistakenly think that there was an ancient, desolate beast breathing beside them. This man is truly powerful. The entire process was swift and decisive. No one made any noise, no one whispered to each other, and no one dragged their feet. Other than Han Bingning and Amauri's voices, no one else in the camp spoke. They lowered their heads to check on their bodies, and occasionally someone would raise their hand to report their injuries. Su Yi and Victor looked at each other, and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Other than that, there were no other noises. If they did not personally witness it, no one would have thought that there would actually be 600 people in the small camp. Without saying a word, Tang Tian immediately decided to return to Purple Cuckoo City. Su Yi and the rest awoke from their stupor. Su Yi immediately said, "Master, please follow me." When their subordinates ran back, everyone looked at each other in dismay. They were caught unprepared by the result. Tang Tian's subordinate strength had suddenly swelled, and their numbers had increased by 10 times. Nie Chio's confidence also swelled. To a military general, 60 men and 600 men were two completely different concepts. But, after not seeing Amauri for a few days, it was as though he had changed into a different person. His temperament was steady, his imposing aura was not revealed. It was obvious that his strength had undergone a huge transformation. It was not because of his strength, but because of his improvement. In the blink of the eye, they would be left behind. Only after witnessing the battle between Lu Tianwen and Ghost Face Mask did they understand how strong experts on the list of powerhouses were. Lu Tianwen was ranked 39 on the list of powerhouses, while Qin Jun was ranked 43. The two of them had a difference of 4 ranks, and their standards were definitely not far apart. In Heaven's Road, an ordinary standard army had roughly 2,000 men, and 600 men was a third of a complete army. Of course, the Leo constellation was an ecliptic palace constellation, so the number of people in their armies would be much larger, but it was still maintained at the order of 1,000. If this fierce beast were to suddenly attack, who would be able to stop it? The Qin family had many prisoners. Other than their original 227, the Tiopiot family had 42, the Lu family had 200, for a total of 469. Nie Chio finally had a feeling that he could put his skills to use. With a scale of 600 men, he could devise tactics, and the power that he could mobilize had increased greatly. Echo Hill Castle is still in closed-door training? When Tang Tian appeared in the prisoners' barracks, the dense mass of prisoners had a momentary silence, followed by a heaven-shaking cheer that resonated throughout the entire city. Everyone couldn't help but look at Victor. Tang Tian's fist had destroyed the city gates, The scene of her bringing the entire Shui family out of the city was still fresh in their minds. At that time, their hearts were filled with fear and bewilderment. It was a patch of darkness. At that time, they were like stray dogs, living in fear. Roland Su was the first to stand up for Victor. That's right. Now is not the time to look into who is responsible. This is everyone's choice. At this time, we need to be united to be able to overcome this crisis. Ambushing the Qin family did not take much effort. Qin Zhen was not around, and only 2 of the 4 great generals were left. Qin Zizhen's archer unit was destroyed, and the Qin family was at their weakest. How could they defend against the alliance of the 4 families? Similarly, there were no problems, and his suggestion was approved. But out of consideration for safety, all of the Null Division were mobilized. Just at that moment, a scout suddenly reported with an excited expression, "There are people coming from the direction of Echo Hill Castle." In the past few days, he had a new breakthrough in his exploration of the Yin-Yang formation. But in just a few days, he had actually returned, and with the attitude of a victor, he was welcomed back into the Shui residence. Such an imposing manner, when had the Sin domain ever seen it before? Amauri's strength had increased by another level, the null flames that were released from his body had gradually been retracted, even his temperament had undergone a complete change, the initial rush and stupidity had disappeared, he had become even more steady, and the air of a great general had appeared. Han Bingning had ignited her primordial fire origin, and became the only member of the Null Division to ignite her primordial fire origin and gain enlightenment on her law surface. Even in the Sin domain, it was extremely rare for people to achieve both. Ming Zhu looked at the newly repaired city gates, and the welcoming crowd outside, and in that moment, he was actually moved. Su Ye's tone revealed a trace of anxiousness. It was not only him, the other people also revealed a trace of worry. The result in front of them was something that they had never expected. All of the tactics and principles were the same, it was to make the use of strength more efficient. Nie Qiu was an outstanding military general, and had a deep understanding of this point, although the form of strength had changed, but the principles of the tactics had not. Ben Sin nodded his head and said, "We better prepare early." Chapter 742. The Monarch Yearning Strike was an extremely unique martial technique, containing too many dreams, emotions, beliefs, hopes, and the tempering of her mental state allowed her to have a deeper understanding and comprehension of the Monarch Yearning Strike. She had encouraged herself countless of times. Yearning is a rainbow. Su Yi remained silent. Su Yi subconsciously wiped his forehead, and unknowingly, a layer of perspiration had appeared on his forehead. He had a lingering fear. Luckily I did not stop her. If I had killed her. Everyone were experts and immediately sensed the change in Tang Tian's aura. With the formation of a hand seal, a warm and tranquil aura dispersed out from Tang Tian's body. The current Tang Tian looked like a completely different person, without any killing intent. She knew the disparity between her and Tang Tian, and knew how little help she could give him. He had conquered Heaven's Road like a hero, while she was managing a small family in an unknown planet. Monarch Yearning Strike, Monarch Yearning Strike. Upon entering the room, Tang Tian frowned. The air was filled with a unique aura. Tang Tian kept his smile and said softly. His tone was filled with joy. He never thought that he would actually meet Gu Shui, and was even able to save Gu Shui, and never thought that Gu Shui would actually break through at such a time. Roland Rowe shook her head. No, it's Qin Zhen's second family general. When we attacked the Qin family, she was in a coma the entire time. Furthermore, she seems to be in a weird situation. Master, do you want to take a look? How can a young lady like a rainbow surrender? Why would she give up? Roland Rowe heaved a sigh of relief. She was afraid that Ghost Face Mask would have killing intent, or become impatient, but Master Ghost Face Mask was much more amicable than the rumors said. She immediately replied, "Yes, this subordinate feels that this lady has been bewitched by someone, and killing her would be a pity. Upon thinking about that scene, she could not help but shiver. Then, she felt her body being pulled up and swayed with all her might. Leaving the room, Tang Tian saw a gigantic rainbow appearing in the sky above Purple Cuckoo City, causing countless people to exclaim. The Sin domain did not have any sunlight, and naturally did not have any rainbows. All of the Sin domain people had only heard of the beautiful rainbows from their ancestors. Su Yi and the rest were dumbstruck, but in the next moment, everyone could not help but look at each other, and saw the fear in each other's eyes. His lordship knows. His lordship actually knows this girl. Su Yi was helpless against Roland Su's insistence, to him, he should just kill him. Since he was Qin Zhen's right-hand man, there was no point in recruiting him, so he might as well just kill him. However, Su was kind-hearted. Seeing that she was also a woman, she tried her best to protect her. Unknowingly, she had already surpassed the realm of the sword-slaying demon Wang Yong. Tang Tian was overjoyed and laughed. Ha 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 ha, Gu Shui, it's me. You finally recognized me. That's great. There wasn't the slightest bit of cold aura, only dreamy and warm. What kind of sword intent was this? The struggle of the mind was extremely difficult. In the world of the mind there was nothing to hide, nothing to cover up, nothing to avoid. Like a bayonet that saw blood, he was covered in cuts and bruises, but he never gave up, never surrendered. The citizens of Purple Cuckoo City all walked onto the streets, raising their heads to look at the unprecedentedly beautiful rainbow. Although the woman was unconscious, Su did not act carelessly and sent many people to watch over her. Su led the way, and Tang Tian followed the group into the depths of the city lord's mansion. At that time, only Zhong Zheng and Yan Mei were left in the Qin clan. The scale of their resistance was very small, so the city lord's mansion did not suffer too much damage and was well preserved. The woman on the bed heard someone calling her name in a daze. She slowly opened her eyes, and the first thing that entered her field of vision was the face that she had been thinking about day and night. Sure enough, as soon as Tang Tian entered the room, he sensed the aura of the blue flame. Compared to the wisp of law mark in his body, this woman's mist was much thicker, and her entire body was wrapped in a lingering blue mist. The illusion of the blue mist and the bewitching sound made Gu Shui suffer a lot, but at the same time, she benefited a lot. Acacia is a rainbow. What move was this? Everyone felt a chill in their hearts. They did not sense any fluctuations of laws. Without the fluctuation of the laws, how could the aura change? Furthermore, they had never seen such a tranquil and gentle aura before. In that moment, they felt as though they were standing in a gentle breeze. They were all people with strong willpower, and regained their senses after being in a daze, but their hearts were filled with shock, and felt that the master was even more unfathomable. Until today, when she opened her eyes and saw Tang Tian, all of the accumulations of training, the scars from the mental clash, and the rainbow that had never disappeared in her heart, had found the most suitable connection point and fused together, allowing her to step into a new realm. The lingering blue mist became lesser and lesser, and the woman on the bed appeared. Her silver mask was extremely eye-catching. Tang Tian looked at the rainbow above his head. The warm and dreamy sword concept reminded him of the past. Su and Zhong's face revealed a look of shock. Sword concept. The strange blue mist seeped out from the woman's body, curling and moving, as though it was alive, and after a moment, it once again entered her body. He walked to the bed, the demon figure congealing in his mind, and at the same time, he formed the grasping flower seal. Gu Shui was completely awoken by the roar. She opened her eyes in a daze, but the face in her eyes did not disappear, but looked at her anxiously. She was stunned, and after a moment, she muttered with uncertainty, "Tang Tian?" Tang Tian was immersed in the grasping flower seal. His expression was calm, and he had a smile on his face. "I'm dreaming again." Roland Su walked forward and spoke respectfully. "Master, we still have a captive. How can I not recognize you? Even if you turn into ashes, I can recognize you." In his mind, the gigantic demon figure appeared behind him, and his fingers were like the grasping flower seal. The blue mist entered his body, and flew into the demon figure's grasping flower seal. The blue flame became even more intense at a speed visible to the naked eye. The blue flame that was originally the size of a soybean gradually became the size of a candle, quietly floating between his fingers. The sound mist on his other hand was also expanding rapidly, its size increasing by a few times, and the thin sound became much thicker. Inside the captivating blue mist, she would wake up and sleep, as though she was in a dream. But she had never given up. She had personally experienced the destruction of her family, and had personally built her family from the ruins, and her personality was never weak. Tang Tian's subordinates formed their own system, and he did not need to worry about the null division. As for the matters of Purple Cuckoo City, Tang Tian left it to the four families. To him, Purple Cuckoo City was just a temporary residence, and he would not stay for long. The four families were the local tyrants, and had more experience than him in handling matters. Tang Tian was startled. Captive? Is he one of us? Monarch yearnings strike. Tang Tian was startled, and in the next second, he blurted out, Gu Shui. Tang Tian looked at the smile on Gu Shui's face, and a bad premonition arose in his heart. Could it be that Gu Shui is injured somewhere? Or is there an imprint that has not been removed? In a moment of anxiousness, Tang Tian's eyes widened in anger, and he roared, Gu Shui! For an entire hour, Tang Tian did not move, as though he was a statue. She chuckled and closed her eyes. But just like what Tang Tian had said, so what? Gu Shui looked as though she was bathing in the sunlight. The blue sky was clear, and rainbows floated in the sky, her face revealing a satisfied smile. Since she was a captive, Tang Tian did not have any intentions of being polite. Without saying a word, he took off her mask, revealing a beautiful face. Let's retreat. Gu Shui's face suddenly blossomed with an enchanting smile. Her eyes had transformed into two beautiful whirlpools, suddenly like countless of rainbows spinning. The entire room was filled with rainbows, and Gu Shui, who was on the bed, slowly floated in the air. Victor spoke up from the side. This lady's background is mysterious. She is not from the Purple Cuckoo City, Master. Why not take a look? On the bed laid a lady with a silver mask on her face, her entire body shrouded in blue mist. Gu Shui maintained her smile. She continued to feel sleepy. She wanted to continue sleeping. A light sound came out, as though the blue mist was being attracted. It transformed into a thin smoke arrow and entered Tang Tian's fingertip. Everyone was stunned by the scene in front of them. Roland Su subconsciously touched the rainbow in front of her, but grabbed onto nothing. In the blink of an eye, Tang Tian realized that he had free time again, and could train again. Su Yi heaved a sigh of relief, although he did not know what inheritance the master had, but to be able to break it, that was great. When the last strand of blue mist entered Tang Tian's fingertip, Tang Tian opened his eyes, revealing a faint look of joy. The blue flames in the demonic figure's palm was already the size of a fist, and the sound mist on the other hand was as thick as a finger. Tang Tian nodded his head without hesitation. Let's go take a look. Since I am weak, then I will become strong enough to help him, just like how he helped me in the past. She arranged everything in the family properly, settled everything down, and then walked out resolutely. A loud sound suddenly exploded out, causing the air in the entire room to be stirred, surging unceasingly. Tang Tian's eyes lit up. To others, the blue mist was poison, but to him, it was a great nourishment. The blue flames and sound mist in the demonic figure's hands were pitifully little. Su Yi and the rest were shaken to the point that their eardrums were buzzing, their minds were in a daze. After dispersing the grasping flower seal, he left the ethereal state, and Tang Tian's gaze landed on the lady on the bed. Mask? Thinking about his own ghost face mask, Tang Tian was pleased. Seems like everyone likes mask. She unintentionally ended up in this place, and was controlled by Qin Zhen's blue mist, but her mind that was imprisoned never gave up. Because of himself, because of the figure, because of the rainbow, because of many other reasons. Hey hey hey, Gu Shui, quickly wake up. Everyone's faces became gloomy. Su Yi glanced at Roland Su. He trained in the life and death laws, and was extremely sensitive to the aura of death, but he had never seen the blue mist before, and had difficulty determining what it was. This dream is a little intense. Inside the rainbow, there are actually sword concepts. That was also why he wanted to kill her. The blue mist was strange, and if he was not careful, he might be implicated, and it was not worth it to sacrifice himself for a captive. He was worried, and also dissatisfied with Roland Su and Victor. If something were to happen to the master, who would be able to bear the responsibility? It's weird. Tang Tian was interested. It was a pity that no matter what Roland Su did, he was unable to wake her up. If it was him, he would definitely not give up. No matter how stupid Tang Tian was, he knew that the item was extremely beneficial to the demonic figure. Chapter 743. He had just snuck out of the tavern when a figure appeared in front of him. The more Qin Zhen thought about it, the more afraid he became. Lu Tianwen had made his move, and the Lu family had no path of retreat. They would think of ways to get rid of him. Thinking about the terrifying Lu Xingxiang, Qin Zhen trembled. A sinister look flashed past Qin Zhen's eyes. He suddenly thought about Lu Tianwen, and felt that it was strange. There was such a huge movement in Purple Cuckoo City. Why did Lu Tianwen not have any reaction? Ghost Face Mask was still far from the list of powerhouses. He could not wait any longer. He decided to go back and report. It was a false alarm, but for such a huge matter, it would be a huge loss if he delayed it by a day. What we need now is time. Tang Tian thought for a moment, then asked Niechio, "If we have a month, how strong can we be?" Everyone kept quiet, but the disbelief on their faces did not fade. But seeing that Tang Tian did not refute him, everyone became suspicious. Are all of their talents that strong? Niechio's 1 month was definitely not without reason, and most likely, he already has a plan. If Lu Tianwen were to take action, what would the Lu family do? Qin Zhen's first thought was of Ghost Face Mask, but he quickly denied it. Ghost Face Mask's strength was not weak, but that was all. Killing Wei Han, Mu Zhe and the archer unit was shocking, but compared to him, there was still a huge gap. Impossible! The broken mountain peaks, the collapsed rocks, the large craters, everything showed that there had been a huge battle. Learning the air shield is easy, but considering that we might be fighting in the air, the difficulty of forming formations in the air will be higher, so the training time will be extended. Niechio's tone did not have any emotions. The first slash of the heavy demonic execution is easier to handle. Although the training of formations is new, but we have been training in formations for a long time, and will be able to adapt very quickly. But adding everything together, the time will not be short. That was what Qin Zhen did not understand, unless they were not afraid of his revenge. Or if they had someone backing them up, or if they knew that their situation was not good. Qin Zhen had been thinking about this problem for the past few days, and it was the biggest doubt in his heart. The undulations of laws lingered in the air. Seeing the undamaged Echo Hill Castle, Qin Zhen guessed that Lu Tianwen had already brought the Shui family away. I think that Ghost Face Mask has been killed, although I did not see his corpse, but it is the most logical result. Qin Zhen, who was suspicious by nature, disappeared into the night like a bird startled by the mere twang of a bough. This seemingly absurd conjecture continuously devoured Lu Lingnan's heart. The more he thought about it, the more afraid he became. Who could it be? The others were in complete disbelief. There was so much content, and even they felt that it was difficult to achieve. Learning everything in a month? What a joke! In front of Su Yi and the rest, Niechio said honestly. Would the Lu family not be jealous of the Qin family's null division prisoners? Lu Xingxiang might not be jealous, but who could guarantee that Lu Tianwen would not be jealous? Can Ghost Face Mask fight against Qin Zhen? In his eyes, the purple cuckoo city in the distance was like a monster that could devour anyone at any time, with danger lurking everywhere. Now that he was the only one left in the Qin family, he absolutely could not act so rashly. However, as the four races changed sides, Lu Lingnan sensed a trace of unease. It doesn't make sense, this is definitely not a good time to rely on Ghost Face Mask. At this moment, he suddenly remembered that the four great clans had destroyed the Qin clan. He had been wondering who the four great clans' backer was. Now that I understand, it is even more strange. Why do the four families think that Ghost Face Mask can be their backer? Lu Tianwen took action. Nie Qiu spoke frankly with assurance. With a thought, he quietly flew towards the Echo Hill Castle. A martial artist on the list of powerhouses, the strongest martial artists in the Xin domain. He can fight against Lu Tianwen. Nie Qiu's tone remained calm, as though he was speaking of an extremely ordinary matter. Just like how he understood them, they also understood the Qin family, and they knew that the Qin family was supported by Qin Zhen. As long as Qin Zhen was not dead, they would definitely not dare to take action against the Qin family. A conservative estimate, 1 month. Nie Qiu said. His own situation did not change. He knew where the Lu family's bottom line was, and never challenged it. Qin Zhen's thoughts had always been on the Qin family, and he did not have any enemies. To be able to give Su Yi and the rest such confidence, they definitely had to be a martial artist on the list of powerhouses, and he had to be ranked higher than him. Only then would the cowards dare to make such a move. Along the way, I did not see Lu Tian when escorting the Shui family. Qin Zhen suddenly thought of a possibility. The Lu family might not be his opponent, but Lu Tianwen might not. Lu Tianwen's temperament was eccentric, ruthless and extreme, and could do anything. If Lu Tianwen had a sinister person like Su Yi by his side, it would be hard to say. Who could it be? They dare. If that's the case, then everything can be explained. Qin Zhen's face congealed. Could they be colluding with the Lu family? Qin Zhen shook his head again. The Purple Cuckoo City did not have any meaning to the Lu family. The two cities were not adjacent to each other, and between them was Sharp Wind City. Furthermore, if the Lu family truly has enmity with the Qin family, they will not let me return. They are definitely waiting for me. Maybe they have already set up an ambush, and are waiting for me to bump into them. He could only vaguely remember the rough location of the Echo Hill Castle, and following the directions, when he flew to the Echo Hill Castle, it was empty. But Qin Zhen's gaze did not land on the Echo Hill Castle, but swept across its surroundings. Tang Tian asked directly, "What ideas do you have?" There were high and low talents in humans, and to randomly pick a group of people and ask them to comprehend law threads in such a short period of time. And when he knew that the four families were actually welcoming Ghost Face Mask and the Shui family into Purple Cuckoo City, Lu Lingnan felt that something was amiss. But he did not think too much about it. How could Ghost Face Mask kill Lu Tianwen? What a joke. He just thought that maybe Lu Tianwen was just playing around. There wasn't a single person in the clan who didn't have a headache when it came to this uncle of theirs. However, his strength was extraordinarily high, so everyone could only pinch their noses and accept it. There was only one possibility left. They had someone backing them up. Ghost Face Mask is definitely not Lu Tianwen's opponent. He must have been killed. Qin Zhen understood his city rivals very well. Ben Sun was rough on the outside but meticulous on the inside. Victor was quick-witted and ever-changing. Roland Su was the most decisive. Su Yi was talented, but at the same time, he understood their weaknesses. Even if Wei Han, Mu Zhe and Qin Zizhen's archer unit were completely destroyed, they would not dare to touch the Qin family. That old man Lu Xingxiang's strength was even more terrifying. When the four clans destroyed the Qin clan, he was just watching the show and gloating. No matter what happened to Purple Cuckoo City, the Lu family had nothing to do with it, and Lu Lingnan was eager to see them fight to the death. But he was only surprised by the four clans' confidence and boldness. Qin Zhen was a martial artist on the list of powerhouses, and his strength seemed to have a breakthrough. Qin Zhen looked at the rainbow in the sky above Purple Cuckoo City, his face becoming even colder. He never thought that she would actually break free from the bewitching jade illusion. Lu Tianwen? Taking the initiative to attack, to mess up the situation, and increase the time for the Lu family to react. Qin Zhen racked his brains, but could not think of anything that Su Yi and the rest could rely on. But at the same time, he knew that the 4 clans did not come to the Qin family impulsively. If it was one person, it might be impulsive, but for the 4 of them to do it together, he did not believe it. Lu Lingnan quietly snuck out of the inn. He planned to leave under the cover of the night. That is the easiest thing to do. Nie Chio's tone remained calm, without the slightest bit of anger from being doubted. Under everyone's doubtful gazes, he gave a strong proof. The 65 soldiers from before, all of them gained enlightenment on law threads, and all of them did not take more than 2 days. I am the most important existence in the Qin family. As long as I am here, the Qin family will continue to exist. How long do we need? Tang Tian asked. Now that Master Gu Shui has broken through, adding Han Bingning, a Maori, the formation, and the elites of the 4 families, as long as we defend, even if Lu Tianwen attacks, we will not be at a disadvantage. Although I do not know if Qin Zhen is stronger or weaker than Lu Tianwen, but if they are on the same level, it should not be a problem. Gain enlightenment on law? Everyone? That's not realistic. Su Yi could not resist but cut in. The rest were also puzzled. Nie Chio said calmly. The sudden guess caused him to tremble. The rainbow above Purple Cuckoo City caused Qin Zhen to lose his confidence. After experiencing the initial rage, Qin Zhen, who had calmed down, was filled with suspicions, and the mastermind behind the scenes made him feel a chill down his spine. What a joke, although it is not difficult to gain enlightenment on law threads, but in such a short period of time, to let everyone gain enlightenment on law threads. If not for Master Ghost Face Mask's trust in Nie Chio, they would have suspected that he was an amateur. If that's the case, then Uncle Tianwen. Could it be that Lu Tianwen is truly in Purple Cuckoo City? The 4 families had been unhappy with the Qin family for a long time, but Qin Zhen had never cared about them, so what, would they dare? But he quickly reacted. Why is it impossible? What if Ghost Face Mask is truly stronger than Qin Zhen? If Ghost Face Mask is truly stronger than Qin Zhen, then Uncle Tianwen. The newly freed soldiers need to learn the heavy demonic execution and the air shield, to gain enlightenment on laws and train in formations. All of these require time. If we are able to complete all of these, we will become extremely strong. The Lu family will definitely not blame Lu Tianwen, they will only take the chance to swallow me up. The more Qin Zhen thought about it, the more afraid he became. That's right, Lu Tianwen is definitely waiting for me to walk into their trap. Su Yi and the rest did not believe it. Tang Tian seemed to understand. Then how do we delay the Lu family? Lu Lingnan's face changed. Tai Xie. Qin Zhen calmed down. He suddenly realized that he actually did not know anything about what was happening in Purple Cuckoo City. What exactly happened to actually make Su Yi and the rest dare to attack the Qin family? We do not have that much time. Victor spoke out. Qin Zhen is a suspicious person. Without understanding the situation in the city, he will definitely not appear. But he will definitely hide in the shadows, or have other methods. And the Lu family, Lu Tianwen's death cannot be hidden for long. If in another 10 days, the Lu family does not receive any news of Lu Tianwen, they will definitely be suspicious. Even if we include this period of time, it will definitely not exceed 20 days.